Hello everyone, and welcome to the Fictional Vortex. So we are back with an interesting movie on what if Naruto was the Iron Sage, wielding a suit powered by his Sharingan. Naruto x Pepper Potts Marvel Comics. But before we start, I just want to remind you to please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button if you enjoy my content. Let's start the story. Chapter 1. Dimensional Fracture. The universe tore open like wet paper. Naruto Uzumaki felt himself being pulled apart at the molecular level, his chakra network stretching beyond comprehension as reality itself became negotiable. The last thing he remembered was Sasuke's face, bloody, determined, dying, as his oldest friend pressed trembling fingers against Naruto's eyes. "Take them," Sasuke had whispered. "The final Uchiha making his final gift. You'll need to see what's coming." Then the world had exploded in light and pain and nothingness. Now, Naruto fell through blue-white energy, tumbling between realities. The sensation was worse than any genjutsu he'd ever experienced, at least illusions followed some internal logic. This was madness given form, existence without rules. His lungs seized as if filled with liquid lightning. Every neuron fired simultaneously. The newly transplanted Sharingan eyes burned in their sockets, recording everything while understanding nothing. With a sound like thunder collapsing inward, the dimensional tear deposited him onto solid ground. Naruto crashed hard against polished concrete, momentum sending him tumbling across the surface until he slammed into something metallic. Pain blossomed across his body. Not the abstract agony of interdimensional travel, but honest, familiar hurt. Broken ribs, dislocated shoulder, deep lacerations across his torso where the dimensional boundary had sliced through his tattered Jonin vest. He lay still, grateful for the tangible suffering. Pain meant existence. Existence meant survival. After 13 heartbeats, Naruto forced himself to move. He rolled onto his stomach, forehead pressed against cool concrete, and attempted to gather natural energy, only to find nothing. The familiar flow of the world's essence was gone, replaced by something alien and discordant. This world's energy vibrated at a fundamentally different frequency, making his attempts at sage chakra collection useless. Subject appears humanoid, a clinical female voice observed from somewhere above him. Severe injuries detected, but vital signs are stabilizing at an accelerated rate. Naruto snapped his head up, instantly regretting the motion as pain lanced through his neck. Through blurred vision, he saw a semicircle of figures dressed in white lab coats, their faces obscured by transparent masks. Behind them stood security personnel in black tactical gear, weapons raised. This was not Konoha. This was not anywhere he recognized. Biosignature contains unknown energy patterns, continued the female voice. Belonging to a slender woman holding what looked like a small glowing rectangle. Radiation type unclassified. Naruto reached for his chakra reserves and found them dangerously depleted but still accessible. Whatever had happened during the dimensional transfer had nearly drained him dry. He'd need to be strategic. Where? He managed to rasp, throat raw as if he'd been screaming for days. Perhaps he had been. "Where am I?" Quote. The security team tightened their formation at the sound of his voice. One of them stepped forward, weapon trained on Naruto's chest. "You've appeared inside a restricted Stark Industries research facility," the guard stated flatly. "Identify yourself and explain your method of entry." Stark Industries. The name meant nothing to him. Naruto struggled to his knees, causing the guards to tense further. "My name is Naruto Uzumaki, Jonin of Konohagakure." He swayed slightly, fighting to maintain consciousness. "I don't know how I got here. There was a battle. Dimensional jutsu went wrong. My friend." His voice caught as Sasuke's final moments flashed before him. The memory triggered something in his newly transplanted eyes. Pain seared through his optical nerves as the Sharingan activated involuntarily, the world suddenly sharpening into hyperclarity. The security team's leader barked an order. "Eyes. Something's happening with his eyes." Naruto raised his hands slowly, trying to appear non-threatening. "Wait, I'm not." A new voice cut through the tension, authoritative, female, accustomed to command. "Stand down, all of you." The security personnel parted as a woman strode forward. Tall, strawberry blonde hair pulled back in an immaculate ponytail, wearing what Naruto recognized as expensive civilian clothes rather than a lab coat or tactical gear. Unlike everyone else, she wore no protective mask, her expression visible and calculating. Ms. Potts, protocol requires, began one of the scientists. I'm aware of the protocols, Drive. Chen, I wrote half of them. The woman, Ms. Potts, never took her eyes off Naruto. But our visitor is injured, disoriented, and clearly not from around here. Let's start with basic humanity before we move to containment procedures. She approached until she stood 5 paces from Naruto, close enough to communicate but maintaining safe distance. Smart, Naruto thought. She assessed threats like someone who'd seen combat. I'm Virginia Potts, CEO of Stark Industries. You've appeared in our quantum physics laboratory during a controlled experiment. Her gaze flickered to his eyes, noting their unnatural appearance without comment. Given your method of arrival, I suspect you've experienced some form of dimensional displacement. Naruto stared at her, momentarily speechless. This woman, had immediately grasped what had happened when he barely understood it himself. Yes, he finally managed. I think I have. Can you deactivate whatever is happening with your eyes? It's making my security team nervous. Naruto nodded slowly, focusing inward. The Sharingan responded sluggishly to his control. These weren't his eyes by birth, after all, but after a moment of concentration, he felt the chakra flow diminish. The hyper-awareness faded as his vision returned to normal. Thank you, Pepper said, her posture relaxing fractionally. Now, you mentioned Konohagakure. I'm not familiar with that location. Hidden Leaf Village, Naruto translated automatically. In the Land of Fire. One of the scientists made a note on a tablet. No geographical match in our databases, Ms. Potts. I figured as much. She turned back to Naruto. Mr. Uzumaki, I believe you've traveled much further than from some hidden village. Your energy signature, your appearance, even the way you carry yourself suggests you're not from this world at all. The bluntness of her assessment was oddly comforting. Naruto had always preferred directness. That would explain a few things, he admitted, glancing around the laboratory. The technology was unlike anything he'd seen, even in the most advanced facilities of his world. This isn't the first Shinobi War, is it? Shinobi War, Pepper repeated, frowning slightly. No, I'm not familiar with that term in any current global conflict. Naruto's shoulders slumped as the full weight of his situation settled over him. Then Sasuke was right. He didn't just send me away from the battlefield. He sent me away entirely. Pain and exhaustion finally overcame him. The last thing Naruto saw before consciousness faded was Pepper Potts stepping forward. Concern replacing caution in her expression as she called for medical assistance. Naruto awoke to the steady beeping of monitoring equipment. He lay in a hospital bed, though the room looked more like a high-security apartment than a medical ward. Large windows revealed a stunning cityscape of towering buildings unlike any he'd seen in the 5 great nations. Night had fallen, and countless lights twinkled across the urban landscape. New York City, came a voice from the corner of the room. Quite a view, isn't it? Pepper Potts sat in a chair, a holographic display hovering in the air before her. With a gesture, she dismissed the projection and focused on Naruto. You've been unconscious for approximately 6 hours, she informed him. Your recovery rate is remarkable. Our medical team says you've healed injuries that would take normal humans weeks to recover from. Naruto sat up carefully, testing his limbs. His accelerated healing had indeed repaired the worst damage, though he still felt the lingering effects of chakra depletion. It's a natural ability, he explained, seeing no reason to hide it. My chakra has always healed me faster than normal. Chakra, Pepper repeated, leaning forward with interest. Our sensors detected unusual energy flowing through your body. Is that what you're referring to? Naruto nodded. It's the combination of physical and spiritual energy that shinobi use to perform jutsu techniques. And these jutsu, they're what caused your eyes to change. Naruto's hand moved reflexively to his face. No, these eyes aren't originally mine. They belong to my friend, Sasuke Uchiha. The Sharingan is his clan's bloodline ability. He didn't elaborate further. The memory of Sasuke's sacrifice was too fresh, too painful to discuss with a stranger. No matter how seemingly trustworthy. Pepper seemed to sense his reluctance. I won't press you for details you're not comfortable sharing, Mr. Uzumaki. But I do need to understand whether you pose any threat to this world. The directness of the question startled a laugh from him. I barely understand where this world is, Ms. Potts. I'm not in any condition to threaten it. Call me Pepper. And you'd be surprised how many interdimensional visitors we've had who arrived with conquest in mind. Naruto blinked. This happens often. More often than I'd like, she admitted with a wry smile. Though usually not directly inside one of our research facilities. Whatever dimensional tear brought you here interacted with an experiment we were conducting on quantum entanglement. Naruto rubbed his temples, trying to process this information. Where I come from, space-time ninjutsu is extremely rare and dangerous. Only a handful of shinobi have ever mastered it. Space-time ninjutsu. Pepper tested the unfamiliar word. That aligns with our readings. The energy spike just before your arrival contained temporal markers similar to what we've observed during certain Avengers incidents. Avengers. Pepper's expression shifted subtly, a mixture of pride, pain, and something deeper. Earth's mightiest heroes. A team that protects this world from threats beyond normal human capability. She reached for a tablet on the nearby table and pulled up images that made Naruto's eyes widen. A man in red and gold mechanical armor. A massive green creature. That seemed more force of nature than human. A woman with energy crackling from her hands. A man wielding a hammer that controlled lightning. These people, Naruto said slowly, they're like Jinchuriki. Humans with special powers. Some were born with abilities. Others created their powers through science or acquired them through accidents. A few aren't human at all. Pepper swiped through images before pausing on one showing the man in the red gold armor without his helmet, dark-haired, with an expression that reminded Naruto painfully of Sasuke at his most arrogantly confident. This was Tony Stark, she said quietly. The original Iron Man, founder of the Avengers. Her voice caught briefly. He sacrificed himself to save our universe from a threat called Thanos. The parallel was too striking to ignore. Naruto swallowed hard. Sasuke did something similar. To save me. To save everyone. Their eyes met in shared understanding, the unique pain of witnessing a sacrifice. Choice you were powerless to prevent. The moment was broken by a soft chime from the room's communication system. Ms. Potts, came a voice, the analysis of the dimensional energy patterns is complete. Dr. Foster believes she's isolated the unique signature. Thank you, Friday. Tell her I'll review the findings shortly. Pepper returned her attention to Naruto. Our astrophysicists have been studying the event that brought you here. With enough data, we might eventually find a way to send you back. Naruto's heart lurched painfully. Back to what? Sasuke's final act was to send me away from a losing battle. If he did that, it means there might not be anything left to go back to. The admission hung heavy in the air between them. Pepper didn't offer empty reassurances, which Naruto appreciated. Instead, she stood and moved to the window, gazing out at the city lights. When I first met Tony, I was just his assistant. I watched him become Iron Man, watched him risk everything. Repeatedly to protect a world that often didn't appreciate his sacrifices. She turned back to face Naruto. After he was gone, I had a choice, retreat into grief or continue his work. Stark Industries now focuses on global protection and recovery. We build systems to detect interdimensional threats before they become catastrophes. Why are you telling me this? Because you're clearly a person of exceptional abilities who's just lost everything, she replied simply. And in my experience, people like that either become forces for tremendous good or tremendous destruction. Naruto looked down at his hands. In my world, I was Hokage, leader of my village. My whole life was dedicated to protecting people. Then perhaps you'd consider continuing that work here, while we investigate the possibility of returning you home. Pepper's offer was delivered casually, but Naruto sensed the careful calculation behind it. Stark Industries could use someone with your unique perspective on interdimensional threats. Before Naruto could respond, the building's alarm system activated. Red lights pulsed as a computerized voice announced, "Perimeter breach detected in Laboratory Section D. Unknown entities have penetrated the quantum containment field." Pepper's demeanor instantly shifted from diplomatic to commanding. Friday. Full facility lockdown. Activate defensive protocols and evacuate non-essential personnel. Already in progress, Ms. Potts, responded the AI. Security teams are engaging the intruders, but conventional weapons appear ineffective. The entities don't match any known biological signatures. Naruto was already moving, swinging his legs off the bed and reaching for his tattered clothing folded on a nearby chair. "What are you doing?" Pepper demanded. "You said I have unusual energy," he replied, pulling on his pants. "These intruders appeared right after I did, in the same laboratory. That's not coincidence. They followed me here." Pepper didn't waste time arguing. "There's a secure elevator at the end of the hall. It will take us to the command center where we can coordinate." "I don't need to coordinate," Naruto interrupted, checking his limited weapons. Only 3 kunai remained in his pouch. "I need to fight. These things, whatever they're my responsibility." A small, sad smile touched Pepper's lips. "You sound just like him." Before Naruto could ask who she meant, she tapped her wristwatch, which expanded into a sleek gauntlet covering her hand. "I'm not defenseless, Mr. Uzumaki. Lead the way. Laboratory Section D was in chaos when they arrived. The facility's security team had established a perimeter, but they were clearly outmatched. 3 creatures moved through the laboratory with unnatural speed, their arms shifting like smoke given partial substance. They were vaguely humanoid but lacked distinct features, just dark masses with limb-like appendages that passed through solid matter as if it weren't there. Yet wherever they touched equipment, they left behind a residue of corrosive energy that ate through metal and plastic alike. "Dimensional parasites," Naruto muttered, recognition dawning. "I've seen these before, during the 4th Great Ninja War. They feed on chakra and dimensional energy. How do we stop them?" Pepper asked, her gauntlet humming with charged energy. Naruto assessed his depleted reserves. He had perhaps 20% of his normal chakra capacity, not enough for his more powerful techniques, but enough for the basics. "They're partially out of phase with this reality," he explained. "Physical attacks won't work unless they're forced to fully materialize." He formed a familiar hand sign. "Which means we need to give them something they want to feed on." "Wait," Pepper began, but Naruto was already moving. Shadow Clone Jutsu. Where once he could have created dozens of solid clones, now only 2 appeared beside him, each a perfect copy but significantly weaker than his usual standard. Still, they would serve their purpose. The security team stared in shock as 3 identical Narutos now stood where one had been a moment before. "Fall back," Pepper ordered the security personnel. "Establish a perimeter and evacuate any remaining staff." The dimensional parasites immediately sensed the chakra discharge from Naruto's technique. All 3 entities pivoted toward him, their formless bodies undulating with sudden interest. "That's right," Naruto muttered. "Come get me." He and his clones separated, each moving to a different section of the laboratory. The parasites followed, drawn to the chakra signature. As predicted, their forms became more substantial as they prepared to feed. "Ms. Potts," Naruto called out. "When they solidify to feed, hit them with whatever you've got." Pepper took position behind an overturned table, her gauntlet aimed at the nearest creature. On your signal, Naruto's first clone deliberately flared its chakra, making itself an irresistible target. The nearest parasite lunged, enveloping the clone in its dark mass. For a moment, the creature became almost fully solid as it began to absorb the clone's energy. "Now," Naruto shouted. Pepper fired, a concentrated beam of energy striking the parasite dead center. The creature emitted a high-pitched screech as the repulsor blast tore through its temporarily solidified form. It collapsed into a puddle of rapidly evaporating dark matter. "One down," Pepper called out, already adjusting her aim toward the second parasite, which was circling Naruto's remaining clone warily. Naruto himself faced the 3rd parasite, which seemed larger and more aggressive than the others. It hovered before him, its form rippling with anticipation. "You're the alpha, aren't you?" Naruto said quietly. "You led the others through the dimensional tear." The creature made no response, but its movements suggested intelligence. It circled Naruto, testing his defenses, looking for weakness. Behind him, he heard another repulsor blast followed by the death screech of the second parasite. His remaining clone dispelled itself, returning a small amount of chakra to Naruto's reserves. The alpha parasite sensed the energy transfer and struck with surprising speed. Naruto barely managed to dodge, the creature's appendage grazing his arm. Instantly, pain shot through the limb as dimensional energy began corroding his flesh. Gritting his teeth, Naruto focused chakra to the wound, counteracting the corrosive effect. The effort further depleted his reserves, but he couldn't risk the damage spreading. Naruto, Pepper shouted, moving to assist him. Stay back, he warned. This one's different, smarter. The parasite circled again, its form expanding to cut off potential escape routes. Naruto reached into his weapon's pouch, fingers closing around his remaining kunai. They wouldn't do much damage in its current state, but he had another idea. Focusing intently, Naruto channeled a small amount of wind nature chakra into the blade. The kunai began to glow faintly with cutting energy. The parasite rushed him again. This time, instead of dodging, Naruto met the attack head-on. As the creature's form began to solidify around him, preparing to feed, he plunged the wind-enhanced kunai into its center mass. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the parasite began to vibrate violently. The wind chakra, acting as a dimensional disruptor, prevented the creature from maintaining cohesion between states of matter. With a sound like air being sucked through a narrow opening, the parasite imploded, collapsing into nothingness. Naruto staggered backward, his chakra reserves now dangerously low. He would have fallen if Pepper hadn't caught his arm, supporting his weight. That, she said with grudging admiration, was either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. In my experience, Naruto managed a weak grin. The best strategies are usually both. Security personnel and scientists cautiously re-entered the laboratory, surveying the damage. Dr. Chen approached, scanner in hand. Dimensional energy readings are stabilizing, she reported. Whatever these entities were, they've left no trace in our reality. Pepper nodded, still supporting Naruto. Increase monitoring for similar breaches. If 3 came through, more could follow, Naruto finished grimly. The parasites are scavengers. They sense weakened points between dimensions and slip through. The fact that they found me so quickly means the boundary between our worlds is still dangerously thin. Then we need to reinforce it, Pepper stated. Dr. Foster's research on Einstein-Rosen bridges might be applicable. I don't know what those are, Naruto admitted, but in my world, we'd place chakra seals at the breach points to stabilize the dimensional walls. Dr. Chen looked intrigued. Could you demonstrate these seals? Naruto shook his head. Not right now. My chakra's too depleted, and I'm not sure they'd work the same way here. This world's energy feels different. Then we'll adapt, Pepper said decisively. Combined approaches often yield the best results. She turned to Naruto, her expression serious. That offer I made earlier. Consider it formally extended. Stark Industries could use someone with your expertise, both in interdimensional threats and in these chakra techniques. Naruto looked around at the damaged laboratory, thinking of the sacrifices that had brought him here. Sasuke had given his life, his eyes, to ensure Naruto survived. Whatever purpose that served, it wasn't to hide away in grief. I accept, he said finally. But I have conditions. Pepper raised an eyebrow. Which are? Complete honesty about what you learn regarding my world. Access to your research on dimensional travel. And, he hesitated, help understanding how my abilities work in this reality. The parasites were just the beginning. If I'm going to protect this world, I need to adapt. Pepper extended her hand. Those terms are acceptable, Mr. Uzumaki. Welcome to Stark Industries. As they shook hands, neither noticed the small fragment of dimensional residue that had attached itself to one of the laboratory's quantum sensors, a seed of something far more dangerous than parasites, quietly taking root in this new world. 3 weeks later, Naruto stood in Stark Industries' advanced training facility, surrounded by sensor arrays and monitoring equipment. Dr. Jane Foster, a brilliant astrophysicist with experience in Einstein-Rosen bridges, DGES, observed from behind reinforced glass alongside Pepper and a team of scientists. Let's try again, Jane's voice came through the communication system. This time, focus on modulating the chakra flow to match the frequency we've isolated. Naruto nodded, centering himself. The past weeks had been frustrating but educational. His chakra worked in this dimension but interacted differently with the natural energy. Traditional jutsu required modification to function properly, and his reserves replenished more slowly than in his home world. He formed the hand signs for a basic clone technique. But instead of pushing chakra outward as he normally would, he attempted to match the resonance frequency Jane had identified. The chakra moved differently, vibrating at a higher pitch as it extended from his core. Shadow Clone Jutsu. Quote, the energy coalesced, and 5 perfect clones appeared, more than he'd been able to maintain since arriving. The monitoring equipment immediately registered the change. That's it, Jane exclaimed excitedly. Your energy signature just harmonized with our dimensional baseline. Power efficiency increased by 68%. Naruto examined his clones, noting their improved solidity and chakra circulation. They're stronger too, more stable. Pepper smiled approvingly. Excellent progress. How do you feel? Like I'm finally getting somewhere, Naruto admitted. He dispersed the clones, carefully noting how the returning chakra felt different, cleaner somehow, as it filtered through the dimensional resonance. The Sharingan next, Dr. Foster suggested. We've been eager to analyze its properties. Naruto hesitated. Using Sasuke's eyes still felt intrusive, even weeks after the transplant. But their power might be crucial to understanding the dimensional rifts. All right, he agreed, closing his eyes briefly to center himself before channeling chakra to the optical pathways. When he opened them again, the Sharingan activated smoothly, more smoothly than before. The world sharpened into hyper-focus, energy patterns becoming visible throughout the room. He could see the flow of electricity through the walls, the subtle vibrations of sound waves. The minute shifts in air pressure as the ventilation system cycled. Fascinating, murmured one of the scientists. The ocular enhancement is actually creating a quantum observation effect. He's literally seeing probability states. Naruto turned slowly, taking in the various energy signatures. Then he froze. Something's wrong, he said sharply. There's a distortion in the east corner. A dimensional pocket that shouldn't be there. The scientists frantically checked their instruments. I don't see anything, Jane reported. Our sensors aren't detecting any anomalies. It's there, Naruto insisted. Moving toward the disturbance, the Sharingan allowed him to perceive the subtle wrongness, a place where reality folded slightly inward, creating a blind spot in normal perception. This is what I was trained to see. Hidden things. Pepper approached the glass barrier. What exactly are you seeing, Naruto? A dimensional seed, he replied grimly. The parasites must have left it behind during the attack. It's been growing, feeding on the energy from our experiments. He reached into his weapons pouch, newly stocked with specially designed kunai that incorporated elements O.F. Stark technology, and withdrew a seal tag. During the past weeks, he'd been working with the research team to adapt shinobi sealing techniques to this world's energy patterns. I need to neutralize it before it creates another breach. Wait, Jane cautioned. If it's what you say, disrupting it could trigger a premature opening. Let me adjust the containment field first. Naruto shook his head. No time. It's reaching critical mass. The Sharingan showed him the dimensional pocket pulsing with increasing intensity. Everyone clear the observation room. Now, to her credit, Pepper immediately began evacuating the scientists. Friday. Initiate containment protocol beta. All personnel withdraw to safe distance. As the room emptied, Naruto carefully approached the dimensional seed. With the Sharingan, he could see how its energy connected to the larger dimensional fabric, tendrils of interdimensional matter stretching into nothingness. If it fully activated, it would create a doorway. Why large enough for something far worse than parasites to enter? Focusing his chakra into the seal tag, Naruto infused it with a stabilization pattern he'd designed with Jane's help. The tag began to glow with blue-white energy, resonating at the precise frequency needed to counteract the dimensional distortion. Just as he prepared to apply the seal, the pocket pulsed violently. The air around it rippled as something pushed from the other side, something large and determined. Naruto. Pepper's voice came through the communication system. Our sensors are picking it up now. Energy spike approaching critical levels. The dimensional seed cracked like an egg, dark energy spilling outward. Naruto slammed the seal tag against the breach, channeling every bit of chakra he could spare into stabilizing the rift. For a moment, it seemed to work. The energy receded, the dimensional walls reinforcing under the seal's influence. Then a massive force struck from the other side, shattering the eel and sending Naruto flying backward into the training room wall. The breach expanded rapidly, tearing open a portal 6 feet in diameter. From within the swirling darkness emerged a figure, humanoid but wrong. Its proportions subtly distorted as if assembled from mismatched parts. Its skin was pale gray, marked with familiar black symbols that made Naruto's blood run cold. Curse marks. Orochimaru's work. The figure stepped fully into the training room, the portal collapsing behind it. Now Naruto could see it clearly, a man, or something that had once been a man, transformed by forbidden jutsu and dimensional exposure. His face was half hidden behind a respirator mask, but his eyes were visible, cold, calculating, and fixed on Naruto. Found you, the intruder rasped, his voice distorted. By the mask and something more fundamental. The last Uzumaki. The last hope. His gaze shifted to Naruto's eyes. With the last Sharingan. How convenient. Naruto pushed himself to his feet, ignoring the pain from his impact with the wall. Who are you? The intruder tilted his head, an oddly mechanical gesture. A messenger. A harbinger. The first of many. He raised his hand, revealing fingers that extended into grotesque talons. My master sent me to deliver a simple truth. There is nowhere in the multiverse you can hide, 7th Hokage. Naruto's mind raced. This creature knew him, knew his title, came from his world, or some version of it. Your master. Who is he? The intruder's eyes crinkled in what might have been a smile beneath the mask. The one who devoured your world after you fled. The one who will devour this world too. He took a step forward, his movement unnaturally fluid. He only needs one thing to begin. Those eyes you carry. The facility's defenses activate. Panels in the ceiling opening to reveal mounted weapons that targeted the intruder. Stark Industries' advanced security system responding to the threat. The intruder didn't even look up as he made a single hand sign. Raiden. Electromagnetic pulse. Electricity crackled around his body before expanding outward in an invisible wave. Every electronic system in the room failed simultaneously. Lights, sensors, weapons. All dead in an instant. Emergency lighting activated seconds later, bathing the room in red. The intruder stood unmoving, studying Naruto with clinical interest. Your chakra is weak here, he observed. Unharmonized, unbalanced. In this state, you cannot hope to defeat even a messenger like me. He began forming a complex series of hand signs that Naruto didn't recognize. I will take those eyes now. Try not to die too quickly. The training room door slid open manually. Pepper Potts stepped through, both hands now covered in advanced gauntlets that hummed with energy. Step away from him, she ordered. Her voice steady despite the obvious danger. This facility is equipped with non-electronic defensive measures specifically designed for interdimensional threats. The intruder paused, assessing this new development with cold calculation. Another protector. How predictable. His hand signs shifted. Doden. Subterranean spears. The concrete floor beneath Pepper erupted as stone spikes shot upward. She reacted with surprising speed, firing her repulsors at the ground to propel herself into the air, narrowly avoiding impalement. While the intruder's attention was diverted, Naruto formed his own hand signs. The Sharingan allowed him to track the exact flow of chakra through the enemy's technique, and to spot the weaknesses in its formation. Wind release. Vacuum blade. Despite his depleted reserves, Naruto generated a thin, nearly invisible blade of wind chakra that sliced through the stone spears as they formed, disrupting the entire technique. The intruder turned back toward him, genuine surprise evident in his eyes. The Sharingan serves you well already, he acknowledged. But mere copying is the least of its powers. He moved with blinding speed, crossing the distance between them faster than an ordinary human could perceive. But Naruto wasn't ordinary, and with the Sharingan, he tracked the movement perfectly. He met the attack, with a chakra-enhanced palm strike that connected with the intruder's chest, sending him skidding backward. I don't need to copy you, Naruto said, settling into a defensive stance. I just need to understand how your techniques work in this dimension. And thanks to you, I do now. Pepper had regained her footing and now flanked the intruder from the opposite side. Her gauntlets had reconfigured, one glowing with repulsor energy while the other had formed what appeared to be a shield. Stark Industries has been studying interdimensional visitors for years, she stated calmly. Including Ho.W. to send them back where they came from. The intruder's eyes darted between them, reassessing. For the first time, he showed hesitation. My mission was reconnaissance as much as retrieval, he said finally. I've confirmed what my master suspected. The last Hokage lives, bearing the last Sharingan. His body began to shimmer slightly, dimensional energy gathering around him. We will meet again, Naruto Uzumaki. Next time, I will not come alone. Before either Naruto or Pepper could move, the intruder made a final hand sign. His body distorted, stretching impossibly thin before collapsing inward. With a sound like air being forced through a narrow space, he vanished, not through a portal, but by somehow compressing himself out of this dimensional plane entirely. The silence that followed was heavy with implication. Naruto deactivated the Sharingan, feeling the strain of its use combined with his other techniques. Well, Pepper said after a moment, her gauntlets powering down, I think we can safely say you weren't exaggerating the interdimensional threat. Naruto stared at the spot where the intruder had disappeared. That was no ordinary shinobi. The curse marks, the diamond. Seonal Jutsu. Someone has combined Orochimaru's forbidden techniques with space-time manipulation on a scale I've never seen before. And they specifically want your eyes, Pepper noted. The sharing, and must be crucial to whatever they're planning. Naruto nodded grimly. In my world, the Sharingan could control the tailed beasts, immensely powerful chakra entities. In the wrong hands, it could enslave creatures of godlike power. Could it do something similar here? Control powered individuals? The question sent a chill through Naruto. I don't know, but I'm not willing to find out the hard way. Pepper tapped her communicator, which had survived the EMP thanks to Stark Industries' hardening protocols. Friday. Assemble the interdimensional research team in the secure conference room. Priority Alpha. Yes, Ms. Potts, came the AI's response. Dr. Foster is already analyzing the energy signature from the intruder's departure. Pepper turned to Naruto, her expression grave but determined. We need to accelerate your adaptation program. If they're coming for you, for those eyes, we need to make sure you're ready. Naruto looked down at his hands, still feeling the echo of the wind technique he'd performed. It had been weaker than it should have been, but he'd felt the resonance Jane had identified, the key to harmonizing his chakra with this world's energy. I have an idea, he said slowly. But it's going to require combining your technology with my techniques in ways neither was designed for. That, Pepper said with the ghost of a smile, is exactly the kind of innovation Tony would have loved. She gestured toward the door. After you, Mr. Uzumaki. We have work to do. As they left the training room, neither noticed the microscopic dimensional particles the intruder had left behind, deliberately scattered across the facility like spores, each one a tiny window through which he could observe this new world and its defenders. The hunt had begun. Chapter 1 and Chapter 2, Integration Protocol. 3 months after his arrival, Naruto stood atop Stark Tower, watching sunrise paint Manhattan's skyline in hues of amber and gold. The city never truly slept, even at this early hour. Vehicles moved through the streets below like blood cells through veins, keeping the urban organism alive. In many ways, New York reminded him of Konoha, not physically, but in its resilience. Both cities had endured catastrophic attacks, both had rebuilt, both carried on with stubborn determination. Perhaps that's why he found himself seeking height each morning, establishing this ritual of watchfulness as he had done as Hokage. Beautiful, isn't it? Naruto didn't turn. The Sharingan had sensed Pepper's approach long before she spoke, her unique energy signature now familiar to him. Different from what I knew. But yes, beautiful. She joined him at the edge, impeccably dressed despite the early hour. In their months working together, Naruto had never seen her in thing less than perfectly composed, a facade he recognized because he'd worn a similar one as Hokage. The board meeting starts in an hour, she reminded him, her tone carefully neutral. Are you prepared for the questions they'll ask? Naruto smiled faintly. You mean am I prepared to explain why Stark Industries is investing millions in technology based on energy that doesn't technically exist in this dimension? Not really, but I'll manage. The preliminary results speak for themselves, Pepper replied. The chakra integration technology has applications beyond anything we anticipated. She paused, studying his profile. You don't have to attend, you know. The board would understand if my special consultant remained anonymous. Hiding has never been my style. Naruto finally turned to face her. Besides, if I'm going to live in this world, I need to understand how it works. Politics, business, social dynamics, they're different here, but the fundamentals are the same. People want security, prosperity, a future for their children. Pepper nodded, a hint of approval in her expression. Well said. That's precisely the perspective I hoped you'd bring to the table. She checked. Her watch, a sleek device that Naruto now knew contained emergency repulsor technology. I have a pre-meeting briefing. Join me in the executive conference room at 8:30. I'll be there. After she left, Naruto remained a moment longer, gazing at the city. 3 months of intensive study, of this world's history, its heroes and villains, its technological marvels and social challenges. 3 months of adapting his shinobi techniques to function in a universe with fundamentally different energy patterns. 3 months of preparation for whatever might follow him through the dimensional barriers. He touched his temple lightly, feeling the phantom ache of the Sharingan. Though deactivated, the eyes remained a constant reminder of Sasuke's sacrifice, and of the threat that had pursued him here. No additional incursions had occurred since the messenger, 3 months ago, but Naruto didn't believe for a second that the danger had passed. Whatever entity had devoured his world, if the Mies Senger was to be believed, wouldn't simply abandon the chase. With that sobering thought, he turned and headed inside. Time to face a different kind of battle, corporate politics. The executive conference room hummed with subdued conversation as Naruto entered. 12 board members sat around a polished oak table, their attention immediately shifting to the newcomer in their midst. Though dressed in the business attire Pepper had arranged for him, a tailored charcoal suit that felt confining compared to his shinobi gear, Naruto knew he still stood out. His whisker-marked face and unnatural, bright blue eyes marked him as different, even without activating the Sharingan. Pepper rose to make introductions. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Naruto Uzumaki, the special consultant I mentioned in my preliminary report. Mr. Uzumaki has unique insights into the energy integration technology we'll be discussing today. Naruto bowed slightly, a habit he hadn't bothered to break, before taking the empty seat beside Pepper at the head of the table. He felt the weight of evaluating gazes, the silent calculations of wealthy, powerful people assessing whether he represented opportunity or threat. Mr. Uzumaki, began an older man with steel-gray hair, your background remains somewhat mysterious to this board. Perhaps you could elaborate on your qualifications. Pepper had prepared him for this. They had crafted a narrative that was technically true while omitting the interdimensional aspects. Before he could respond, however, the conference room door opened again. A tall, stern-faced man with an eye patch entered, flanked by a woman whose calculating gaze immediately identified her as more dangerous than her business-like appearance suggested. Director Fury, Pepper acknowledged, surprise evident in her voice. This is unexpected. Ms. Potts, the man replied, his single eye surveying the room before settling on Naruto with laser-like focus. We need to talk about your new consultant and the energy spikes we've been monitoring around your facility for the past 3 months. The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. Pepper maintained her composure admirably. Board members, I apologize for the interruption. Could we reconvene in 1 hour? Her tone made it clear this wasn't actually a request. As the board members filed out, casting curious glances between Naruto and the newcomers, Pepper activated security protocols from a panel on the table. The room's windows darkened, and a subtle hum indicated the activation of anti-surveillance measures. Director Nicholas Fury and Deputy Director Maria Hill of S.H.I.E.L.D., Pepper said once they were alone. Meet Naruto Uzumaki. We know who he is, Fury stated flatly, tossing a file folder onto the table. Or rather, we know who he isn't. No birth records, no education history, no digital footprint whatsoever until 3 months ago. Coincidentally, exactly when our sensors detected a Class 4-dimensional incursion at your research facility. Naruto met the man's gaze steadily. You've been monitoring me, Monitoring, researching, analyzing, Hill confirmed, her expression professionally neutral. SHIELD maintains vigilance over potential extraterrestrial and extradimensional threats. I'm not a threat, Naruto said simply. Said every threat ever, Fury countered, taking a seat across from him. But I'm willing to be convinced. Start talking, Mr. Uzumaki. The unredacted version, if you don't mind. Pepper interjected. Director Fury, we've been planning to brief SHIELD once we better understood. The time for planning is over, Fury cut her off. We've detected 3 new dimensional anomalies in the past week. Small, brief, but growing in frequency. Whatever came through with Mr. Uzumaki, it's bringing friends. This was news to Naruto. He leaned forward. Where? When? First one appeared in Iceland, near an old SHIELD research facility, Hill replied. Second in Cairo. Third just outside Wakanda's borders, which has their king particularly concerned, considering their vibranium deposits. That's why we're here, Fury added. Wakanda is sending a representative to discuss the situation. They'll arrive within the hour. Naruto exchanged glances with Pepper. This accelerated their timeline significantly. All right, he said finally. The complete truth, then. He closed his eyes briefly, centering himself, then opened them to reveal the activated Sharingan. Fury's hand moved fractionally toward what Naruto presumed was a concealed weapon, but he made no further aggressive movement. Hill's eyes widened almost imperceptibly. I am Naruto Uzumaki, 7th Hokage of Konohagakure, the village hidden in the leaves. I come from a different dimension, where humans harness an energy called chakra to perform what you might consider superhuman feats. He gestured to his eyes. These eyes are called Sharingan. They originally belonged to my closest friend, who gave them to me with his dying breath as our world faced annihilation. Over the next 20 minutes, Naruto outlined his arrival, the dimensional parasites, the messenger who had followed, and the research he'd been conducting with Stark Industries to adapt his abilities to this universe. Throughout his explanation, Fury remained impassive, his expression revealing nothing. Hill took notes on a tablet, occasionally exchanging glances with her superior. When Naruto finished, Fury leaned back in his chair. So let me get this straight. A potentially world-ending threat destroyed your dimension. You escaped through a fluke interaction between their attack and our quantum research, and now they're coming here, specifically for those eyes of yours, which contain some kind of power. That's the simplified version, yes. Quote, and you didn't think this warranted immediate contact with planetary defense agencies. Pepper intervened. We've been methodically gathering data before making broader recommendations. Naruto's abilities function differently here. We needed to understand the implications before causing unnecessary alarm. 3-dimensional breaches in a week isn't cause for alarm. Fury challenged. Which is why you're here now, Naruto pointed out. And why I'm telling you everything. We share the same goal, Director Fury, protecting this world from extradimensional threats. Fury studied him silently for a long moment. SHIELD has protocols for interdimensional refugees. Normally, they involve containment facilities and extensive testing. That won't be happening, Pepper stated firmly. Mr. Uzumaki is under Stark Industries' protection and employment. Any cooperation with SHIELD will be conducted through our established channels. The tension in the room thickened as Fury and Pepper engaged in a silent battle of wills. Finally, Fury's expression softened marginally. Tony always did have a knack for collecting strays with useful skills, he remarked. Fine, Mr. Uzumaki stays under Stark supervision, for now. But SHIELD will be fully briefed on all research findings, and we'll want our scientists to examine these chakra phenomena directly. Agreed, Pepper nodded, with appropriate non-disclosure agreements and patent protections in place. A subtle chime interrupted them. Ms. Potts, Friday's voice announced, Princess Shuri of Waka. NDA has arrived and is being escorted to the private elevator. Thank you, Friday. Pepper stood. It seems our timeline has compressed further. Naruto deactivated the Sharingan, his eyes returning to their natural blue. The princess herself is coming. Not just a representative. Wakanda takes dimensional incursions near their borders very seriously, Hill explained. Especially after their experiences with the snap and subsequent return. The conference room door opened again, admitting a young woman whose regal bearing contradicted her youthful appearance and casual attire. Her sharp, intelligent eyes immediately assessed everyone present, lingering longest on Naruto. Princess Shuri. Pepper greeted her with a respectful nod. "Thank you for coming on such short notice, Ms. Potts," Shuri replied with a smile that transformed her serious demeanor. "Always a pleasure, though I'd prefer circumstances that don't involve holes in reality appearing near my country." She turned to Fury. "Director, still rocking the pirate aesthetic, I see." Fury's expression remained stoic, though Naruto detected the faintest hint of amusement. "Princess, your brother sends his regards. T'Challa sends his concerns," she corrected, taking a seat. "And a request for full disclosure regarding these anomalies." Her gaze returned to Naruto, starting with an introduction to the man with dimensional energy radiating from him like a beacon. Naruto smiled despite himself. The princess's directness was refreshing after months of corporate diplomacy. "Naruto Uzumaki," he introduced himself. "Dimensional refugee, former leader of my people, and apparently the reason your sensors are detecting anomalies." Shuri leaned forward, interest sparking in her eyes. "Fascinating. And what exactly are you a refugee from?" "That," said Fury, "is what we're all here to discuss." 3 hours later, the expanded group relocated to Stark Industries' primary research laboratory. Displays showing dimensional energy patterns filled the air as Dr. Jane Foster explained the findings to Shuri, whose questions revealed a sophisticated understanding of interdimensional physics. "The quantum resonance pattern is unlike anything in our records," Jane was saying, manipulating a three-dimensional model of energy waves. "It doesn't match Asgardian Bifrost signatures, quantum realm fluctuations, or even the patterns from Thanos' Infinity Stones. Because it's chakra-based," Naruto added from where he stood before a testing chamber. "It follows different fundamental rules." Shuri approached him, curiosity evident in her expression. "You mentioned this chakra as a combination of physical and spiritual energy. How exactly do you manipulate it?" Instead of explaining verbally, Naruto formed a simple hand sign. "Easier to demonstrate. May I?" At Shuri's nod, he focused a small amount of chakra, forming a perfect clone beside him. The replica smiled and gave a small wave. Shuri's eyes widened with delight. "A solid light construct." "No, that's not it." She circled the clone, scanning it with a device from her bracelet. "This is a complete biological duplicate. Down to the cellular level." "Not exactly," Naruto explained. "It's chakra given physical form and function. It can act independently, but it's still connected to me. If it's damaged," he poked the clone, which dispersed in a puff of smoke. "It dissipates, returning any remaining energy to me." "The applications for this technology are extraordinary," Shuri breathed. "Remote operation in hazardous environments. Instant deployment of emergency responders, medical testing without risk to patients." "It's not technology," Fury pointed out from across the room. "It's a biological ability from another dimension that, according to our guest, few people from his world could master. Every technology begins as something only a few can utilize," Shuri countered. "Before my brother, only the Black Panther could use vibranium effectively. Now Wakanda has democratized its applications." Pepper, who had been reviewing data with Hill, joined their conversation. "That's precisely what our research aims to accomplish. Finding ways to adapt Mr. Uzumaki's abilities to work with our technology. And my sensors detected how well that's progressing," Shuri noted with a grin. "The energy signature from Research Center has a distinctive harmonic pattern. You're close to a breakthrough, aren't you?" Jane nodded excitedly. "We've managed to create conductive pathways that can channel chakra through technological components. The challenge has been maintaining stability during energy transitions. Like trying to run water through electrical wires," Naruto simplified. "They weren't designed for each other. But vibranium," Shuri mused, "is extraordinarily adaptive to energy forms we don't fully understand. It might provide the interface medium you need." The conversation paused as Fury cleared his throat pointedly. "As fascinating as this scientific exchange is, we have more immediate concerns. Specifically, the dimensional breaches and whatever hostile force might be trying to follow Mr. Uzumaki here." The messenger said his master devoured my world, Naruto said grimly. And that he specifically wants the Sharingan, these eyes. He activated them briefly, the red irises with T-air distinctive pattern causing Shuri to step closer in fascination. What capabilities do these eyes provide? She asked. Enhanced perception, perfect recall, the ability to see energy flows and predict movements. Naruto deactivated them again, feeling the familiar strain. In my world, they could also cast powerful illusions and control certain entities. I don't know all their capabilities here yet. The analytical applications alone would revolutionize artificial intelligence, Shuri noted. If we could create an interface between the Sharingan's perceptual abilities and computational systems. Naruto froze, a realization striking him. That's it. What's it? Pepper asked. Why they want the Sharingan. It's not just about what the eyes can do, it's about what they can control. Naruto turned to Jane. Your research showed that dimensional boundaries are thinning globally, not just where I arrived. That means whatever destroyed my world is already affecting yours, even without physically crossing over. Like pressure on a membrane, Jane agreed. The effect precedes the actual breach. And the Sharingan can perceive those pressure points, Naruto continued. Maybe even manipulate them. In my world, they could control the tailed beasts by accessing another dimensional plane where their chakra originated. Fury's expression darkened. You're suggesting these yes could potentially control access points between dimensions. More than that, Naruto said quietly. They might be able to control whatever comes through those points, if it's similar to the entities from my world. A heavy silence fell over the laboratory as the implications sank in. Shuri was the first to speak. Then we need to create protective technology immediately. Something that harnesses the Sharingan's capabilities while shielding it from external control or theft. Like an armor system, Pepper suggested, her gaze distant, the look Naruto had come to recognize when she was thinking of Tony Stark. Yes, Naruto agreed, the concept crystallizing in his mind. Something that combines chakra channeling with your advanced technology. A suit that could stabilize dimensional boundaries while providing combat capabilities against whatever might come through. An iron sage, Shuri said with an approving smile. Blending the traditions of your world with the innovations of ours. Pepper nodded decisively. Friday. Create a new project file. Iron Sage Initiative. Security Classification Alpha Prime. Authorized personnel limited to those present. Project file created, Ms. Potts. The AI responded. Initiating preliminary design parameters based on archived Iron Man specifications and current conversation analytics. Hill, who had been quietly observing until now, finally spoke. This is moving very quickly from theoretical concern to active development. SHIELD will need oversight. SHIELD will receive regular updates, Pepper interrupted smoothly, but development remains under Stark Industries' direct control. I believe that aligns with the agreements established after the Sokovia Accords were amended. Fury's expression suggested he wasn't entirely satisfied, but he didn't contradict her. We'll assign liaison personnel. Agent Hill will coordinate with your security team to establish enhanced monitoring for further dimensional breaches. And Wakanda offers its resources, Shuri added. Both technological and otherwise. I'd like to remain personally involved in this project. We'd welcome your expertise, Princess, Pepper replied diplomatically. As the others began discussing logistics and resource allocation, Naruto stepped away, moving toward the laboratory windows that overlooked the city. The sun was setting now, painting the skyly, nay in colors reminiscent of the dimensional tear that had brought him here. He felt Pepper join him a moment later. You've been quiet, she observed. Just thinking about how quickly things change, he replied. This morning, I was preparing for a board meeting. Now we're designing interdimensional battle armor. Welcome to life in Tony Stark's legacy, she said with a sad smile. He always the future comes at you faster than you expect. In my world, I was considered unpredictable, Naruto mused. Always surprising enemies and allies alike with unconventional approaches. Here, I feel like I'm constantly catching up. And yet you adapt remarkably well, Pepper noted. That's a rare quality. Before Naruto could respond, a sharp pain lanced through his head. He gasped, pressing his palms against his temples as the Sharingan activated involuntarily. Naruto. Pepper's voice seemed distant as his vision fractured into multiple overlapping images. He saw New York, but not as it currently existed. Buildings crumbled as dark energy poured from fissures in reality. Shadowy figures moved through the streets, hunting survivors. Above it all hovered a massive entity, its form too alien to comprehend fully, but somehow familiar in its malevolence. Then the vision shifted. A laboratory, Stark Industries, but different. Figures worked frantically around a central platform where a suit of armor stood. Not Iron Man's armor, but something new. Something that combined sleek technology with symbols Naruto recognized from sealing jutsu. Finally, he saw himself, wearing the armor, facing the dimensional tiers as they widened. The Sharingan glowing not just in his eyes but reflected in the armor's chest piece, an integration of biology and technology. As suddenly as it began, the vision ended. Naruto found himself on his knees, Pepper's hand on his shoulder and the others gathered around with expressions ranging from concern to suspicion. What happened? Fury demanded. Naruto took a shuddering breath. A vision. The Sharingan sometimes shows things, possibilities, warnings. He looked up at their concerned faces. We don't have as much time as we thought. The barriers between dimensions are weakening faster than your instruments can detect. What did you see? Shuri asked quietly. Destruction, Naruto answered grimly. But also a potential solution. He turned to Pepper. The Iron Sage project isn't theoretical anymore. I saw it working, integrating with the Sharingan to stabilize the dimensional boundaries. You saw the future. Hill sounded skeptical. I saw a possible future. Naruto corrected. One where we were prepared. There were others. He didn't finish the thought. Jane was already moving to her instruments. If the Sharingan can perceive dimensional instabilities our technology can't detect yet, we need to recalibrate our monitoring systems immediately. And accelerate the armor development, Pepper added. Friday. Initial. Eyes fabrication resources and transfer all relevant Iron Man schematics to the secure server. Yes, Ms. Potts. Estimated preliminary design completion in 72 hours. Shuri touched her beaded bracelet. I'll have vibranium samples and Wakandan design specialists here by morning. If we're racing against dimensional collapse, we'll need the best materials available. As everyone mobilized around him, Naruto remained kneeling for a moment longer, his thoughts troubled. The vision had shown him more than he'd revealed, fragments too disturbing to share until he understood them better. Faces from his past appearing in this world. The messenger returning with an army. And something else, a presence watching him through the dimensional barriers, patient and calculating. Waiting for the perfect moment to strike. 1 month later, Naruto stood in Stark Industries' advanced fabrication facility, surrounded by holographic displays showing the evolving Iron Sage armor design. What had begun, as theoretical discussions had rapidly progressed to prototype development, fueled by the urgency of his vision and the combined resources of Stark Industries, S.H.I.E.L.D., and Wakanda. The chakra conductivity tests are showing 87% efficiency, reported one of the engineers, manipulating data streams that tracked energy flow through synthetic pathways. That's a 15% improvement over yesterday's results. The vibranium-infused conductive mesh is stabilizing the energy transfer, Shuri added, her fingers dancing across a workstation where she was fine-tuning microscopic components. But we're seeing quantum fluctuations during high-output scenarios. Naruto observed their work with a mixture of awe and concern. The integration of chakra with technology remained unpredictable, a special Why when the Sharingan's unique properties were introduced to the equation. 3 previous prototype components had failed catastrophically during testing, one resulting in a localized dimensional ripple. That had taken Jane Foster's team 2 days to contain. The fundamental problem, Jane explained, joining them at the central workstation, is that chakra doesn't just flow like electricity. It resonates, adapts, almost seems to have intentionality. Our systems are designed for predictable energy patterns. Because chakra is partly spiritual energy, Naruto reminded her. It carries something of the user's intent in nature, which makes creating standardized interfaces incredibly challenging, Shuri concluded. Unless, her eyes lit up with sudden inspiration. Unless we don't try to standardize it at all. What if we design the system to adapt to the energy's intentions rather than trying to force it into predetermined pathways? Jane caught on immediately. Like Tony's later AR. More designs that could reconfigure based on combat needs. Exactly. Shuri nodded excitedly. The nanites would sense the chakra's purpose and reconfigure in real time to support it. As the ISTS launched into increasingly technical discussions, Naruto stepped back, allowing them space to develop the concept. His role in the project was primarily as the chakra source and eventual user. The technical aspects remained beyond his expertise despite months of intensive study. He noticed Pepper watching from an observation platform above the fabrication floor. Making his way up to join her, he found her reviewing security protocols on a tablet. "Progress?" she asked as he approached. "They're brilliant," Naruto replied, nodding toward the team below. "Shuri especially. She thinks like Sasuke did, seeing connections nobody else notices. High praise, coming from you." Pepper set aside the tablet. "Shield reports 3 more dimensional anomalies yesterday. Small, contained, but ink. Rising in frequency exactly as you predicted." "The messenger was just the beginning," Naruto said quietly. "Whoever his master is, they're testing the boundaries, looking for weaknesses. Which is why we need the Iron Sage operational as soon as possible." Pepper hesitated, then added, "There's something else you should know. Friday detected an unusual energy signature in Hell's Kitchen last night. It matched readings from your arrival, but on a smaller scale." Naruto tensed. "Another dimensional traveler. Why wasn't I informed immediately?" "Because we're still confirming," Pepper replied calmly. "Initial scans suggest it wasn't hostile. In fact, the energy pattern closely resembled your own chakra signature, but with subtle differences." "Someone from my world," Naruto breathed, hope and apprehension warring within him. "Who? We don't know yet. By the time SHIELD agents arrived, whoever it was had disappeared. They're analyzing surveillance footage now." She touched his arm lightly, a gesture of support she rarely offered. "Naruto, I need to caution you against expectations. Even if someone else survived, they may not be the same person you knew. Interdimensional travel can change people." "I understand," he said, though his mind was already racing through possibilities. Who would have both the capability and reason to follow him? Kakashi, perhaps. Sakura, or maybe. His thoughts were interrupted by a commotion on the fabrication floor. One of the energy containment units was pulsing with an irregular pattern, alarms sounding as technicians scrambled to stabilize it. "Energy fluctuation exceeding safety parameters," Friday announced. "Recommend immediate laboratory evacuation." Naruto was moving before the AI finished speaking, leaping over the railing to land on the fabrication floor below. The Sharingan activated automatically, allowing him to see the problem immediately. The chakra sample he'd provided earlier was resonating with an external energy source, creating a feedback loop that threatened to rupture the containment field. "Everyone back," he ordered, approaching the glowing containment unit. "I need to stabilize it manually." "Naruto." "Wait," Shuri began. But he was already placing his hands on the transparent barrier, channeling his chakra to counter the building resonance. Through the Sharingan, he could perceive the energy patterns shifting, responding to his presence. But something was wrong. The chakra wasn't just resonating randomly, it was being deliberately agitated by an external force. "We're being probed," he realized aloud. "Someone's using the chakra samples as a detection system." Jane's instruments confirmed his suspicion. "There's a signal pattern embedded in the fluctuations. Almost like it's searching for something. Or someone." Naruto thought grimly. He focused more intently, tracing the signal to its source. The Sharingan allowed him to perceive what the others couldn't, a thin thread of foreign chakra extending from the sample toward the east, connecting to something beyond the laboratory's walls. "Friday," he called out, "scan the city in that direction." He pointed eastward. "Look for energy signatures matching this frequency." "Scanning," the AI responded. "Detecting faint energy trail leading to East River. Signal terminates at abandoned warehouse at these coordinates." A holographic map appeared, highlighting the location. Naruto committed it to memory instantly. "I need to check this personally," he declared, stepping back from the now stabilized containment unit. "If someone's using chakra as a tracking system, they're either from my world or connected to whatever's trying to break through." "You can't go alone," Pepper protested, having made her way to the fabrication floor. "The Iron Sage isn't operational yet." "I won't engage directly," Naruto assured her. "Reconnaissance only. If it's someone from my world who survived, I need to find them before whatever's hunting me does. Shuri stepped forward. Take this. She removed one of her Kimoyo beads and offered it to him. It will allow us to monitor your position and vital signs. It also contains emergency extraction protocols if needed. Naruto accepted the small device, slipping it into his pocket. Thank you. I'm sending a shield team to back you up, Pepper stated in a tone that brooked no argument. They'll maintain perimeter security while you investigate. Knowing better than to refuse reasonable precautions, Naruto nodded. Have them stay 2 blocks back. If this is a trap, I don't want to risk casualties. As preparations were made, Naruto changed into the modified tactical gear developed for him, a reinforced bodysuit with integrated chakra conductors that helped stabilize his energy in this dimension. Not as effective as the Iron Sage would be, but better than civilian clothes for potential combat. Within 30 minutes, he was en route to the East River location, Transporte D in an unmarked Stark Industries vehicle with a SHIELD tactical team following at a discreet distance. Remember, Maria Hill's voice came through his communication device, observation only. If you encounter hostile entities, withdraw and allow the response team to handle containment. Understood, Naruto replied, though they both knew he wouldn't abandon someone from his world if they needed help. The vehicle stopped 3 blocks from the target. From here, Naruto would proceed on foot to avoid detection. He activated the Sharingan, scanning the area for chakra signatures or dimensional disturbances. The warehouse stood isolated on a neglected pier, surrounded by chain-link fence bearing faded, no trespassing, signs. To ordinary eyes, it appeared abandoned and unremarkable. To the Sharingan, however, it pulsed with familiar energy, chakra, but altered somehow by the dimensional crossing. Naruto approached cautiously, moving with the silence his shinobi training had ingrained. The fence posed no obstacle. A simple leap carried him over it and onto the warehouse grounds. He paused, extending his senses, seeking any sign of traps or guardians. Nothing. Just the steady pulse of chakra from within the building. The main entrance was chained shut, but a side door hung partially open. Naruto slipped inside, finding himself in a cavernous space filled with abandoned machinery and shipping containers. Dust motes danced in shafts of afternoon sunlight streaming through broken windows. The chakra signature was stronger here, emanating from the far end of the warehouse where a makeshift living area had been established. Someone had arranged shipping pallets into a crude bed, surrounded by supplies that appeared to have been scavenged from various sources. Hello, Naruto called out, keeping his voice low but audible. I know you're here. I sensed your chakra. Silence answered him. Then, almost imperceptibly, a shadow moved behind one of the containers. I'm not here to harm you, Naruto continued, taking a step forward. I'm like you, displaced from another world. If you're from Konoha, or any of the 5 great nations, you can trust me. A soft voice finally responded, female, hesitant, achingly familiar. And Naruto-kun. His heart seemed to stop. That voice, impossible, yet undeniable. He turned toward its source as a figure emerged from hiding. Pale eyes, dark hair, delicate features marked with exhaustion and weariness. Despite the dimensional journey, despite the crude clothes she'd acquired in this world, he would know her anywhere. Hinata, he breathed, his composed facade cracking at the sight of her. You're alive. She moved toward him cautiously, her Byakugan activated, the veined pattern around her eyes confirming she was no illusion or imposter. Only when she stood an arm's length away did uncertainty give way to recognition. It is you, she whispered, reaching out tentatively to touch his face. Your chakra signature is different, but... Her fingers brushed his cheek, tracing the whisker marks. You have Sasuke-san's eyes now. He gave them to me before he... Naruto couldn't finish the sentence. Hinata, how did you survive? How did you find me? Her expression clouded with painful memories. After you disappeared, everything fell apart. The enemy, it consumed everything, everyone. Kurama tried to protect us, but then the 9 tails couldn't stand against it. She swallowed hard. I was with a group led by Kakashi-sensei. We were trying to seal the dimensional fractures when one of them started behaving strangely. Behaving strangely how? Pulling instead of pushing. Most of the rifts were expelling energy into our world, but this one. She shook her head. Kakashi-sensei realized it was connected to wherever you'd gone. He theorized that Sasuke-san had created a link when he sent you away. Naruto nodded slowly. The Sharingan. He must have imprinted a connection to me when he transferred his eyes. Kakashi-sensei sacrificed himself to hold the rift open, Hinata continued, her voice breaking. He told me to find you, to warn you. I was the only one who could track your specific chakra signature across dimensions. Warn me about what? Hinata's expression darkened. The entity that destroyed our world. It's not just destroying. It's consuming, absorbing. Every power, every bloodline limit, every technique it encounters becomes part of it. Her pale eyes met his directly. And now it wants the Sharingan. With that power, it could control the dimensional boundaries completely, move between worlds at will. The information aligned with what the messenger had told him, but hearing it from Hinata made the threat even more tangible. How long have you been here? He asked, noting her exhausted appearance. 3 days, she answered. The dimensional crossing was difficult. My chakra network was damaged. I've been hiding, trying to recover while searching for you. She glanced around the warehouse. I could sense fragments of your chakra throughout the city, but they were too dispersed to pinpoint your location until today. When our experiment created a resonance pattern, Naruto realized. Your Byakugan detected it. She nodded. I used a technique to follow the connection back to its source. Hinata, he said gently, you don't have to hide anymore. I've found allies here, people who are helping me prepare for whatever's coming through the dimensional barriers. Relief washed over her features. You're not alone. No, he smiled, offering his hand. And neither are you, not anymore. She took his hand, her fingers cold from exhaustion and stress. As their chakra connected, Naruto felt the familiar resonance, different from this world's energy, a reminder of home. Of connections thought lost forever. Come with me, he said. There's a lot to explain about this world, but you'll be safe. And your Byakugan could be crucial to what we're building. Building a defense system. Technology combined with chakra. He activated his communication device. This is Uzumaki. I've found our dimensional visitor. She's an ally. Hinata Hyuga, from my world. We're coming out. Have medical personnel standing by. As they exited the warehouse together, Naruto felt a complex mixture of emotions. Joy at finding someone from his world, Hinata of all pay. Opal, tempered by the confirmation that their home was truly gone. Hope for the future alongside dread of what pursued them. And beneath it all, a growing certainty that the Iron Sage project had just become even more vital. Now he wasn't just protecting his new world, he was protecting the last survivor of his old one as well. Hinata's integration into the Stark Industries research team proceeded more smoothly than anyone anticipated. After medical evaluation confirmed her identity and verified that her chakra network was indeed damaged but healing, Pepper had arranged secure accommodation within the tower complex, coincidentally adjacent to Naruto's own quarters. Within days, her Byakugan had proven invaluable to the Iron Sage project. Where the Sharingan could perceive energy flows and predict movements, the Byakugan could see through solid matter and identify structural weaknesses at the molecular level. The chakra conductors need to align with the body's natural meridians. Hinata explained during one design session, her Byakugan activated as she examined the holographic armor schematic. Currently, they intersect at angles that will create resistance. Shuri, who had developed an immediate rapport with the quiet Kunoichi, adjusted the design accordingly. Like this. Better. Hinata nodded. But the secondary pathways should branch here and here. She gestured to points along the arms and torso. That will allow for more precise chakra distribution during technique formation. Jane Foster observed with fascination. It's remarkable how complementary your abilities are. The Sharingan's analytical capabilities combined with the Byakugan's structural insights create a complete design perspective. Naruto, watching from nearby as technicians fitted him with sensor arrays, couldn't help but smile at Hinata's growing confidence. In their world, she had always been formidable but reserved. Here, surrounded by people who valued her unique perspective without the weight of clan expectations, she was blossoming. The chest piece housing requires additional reinforcement, she continued, her fingers tracing patterns through the holographic display. If the Sharingan energy is to be channeled through it as we've discussed, the material needs to withstand significantly more pressure. Vibranium alone won't be sufficient, Shuri agreed. We'll need create a composite alloy incorporating the chakra conductive elements. As the technical discussion continued, Naruto allowed his mind to wander. 2 nights ago, he'd experienced another vision the Sharingan, more fragmented than the first, but disturbing in its implications. He'd seen figures moving through dimensional tiers, beings that resembled shinobi but wrong somehow, altered. Twisted. He hadn't shared the vision with the others yet, not wanting to alarm them when they were making such significant progress. But the sense of urgency had increased, driving him to push himself harder during testing sessions. Often to the point of chakra exhaustion. Your stress levels are elevated, Friday observed quietly through his earpiece. Ms. Potts asked me to monitor your biometrics during testing phases. I'm fine, Naruto replied under his breath. Just focused. Your current physical state indicates sleep deprivation and mild chakra depletion, the AI countered. Recommend. Dead course of action includes rest period before next testing phase. Before Naruto could respond, Pepper entered the laboratory, accompanied by Maria Hill. Their serious expressions immediately drew everyone's attention. We have a situation, Pepper announced without preamble. SHIELD has detected a significant dimensional anomaly forming over Central Park. Unlike previous instances, this one appears to be stabilizing rather than dissipating. Hill activated a holographic display showing aerial footage of the park. A shimmering distortion hung approximately 50 feet above Sheep Meadow, gradually expanding. Energy readings are consistent with a controlled breach, Hill reported. Whatever's coming through, it's not accidental. Naruto and Hinata exchanged concerned glances. How long until full manifestation? Jane asked, already running calculations. Current models suggest 2 hours, possibly less, Hill replied. We're evacuating the area under the pretense of a gas leak. But containing public awareness will become impossible once the breach is visible to normal perception. The Iron Sage prototype isn't ready, Shuri stated, frustration evident in her voice. The integration systems are still unstable. What about the Mark I test unit? Pepper inquired. It lacks the full chakra integration, but the basic flight and defensive systems are operational. Shuri hesitated. Theoretically functional, yes, but without complete chakra pathways, Naruto wouldn't be able to utilize his techniques effectively while wearing it. It's better than nothing, Naruto decided, already moving toward the equipment bay where the prototype components were stored. I'll adapt. You can't seriously be considering engaging whatever comes through, Pepper objected. This is precisely why we have SHIELD and other response teams. Conventional weapons won't be effective against dimensional entities, Naruto reminded her. We learned that with the parasites. And if this is the messenger returning, or something worse, they're specifically coming for me, for the Sharingan. Better to meet them on our terms than wait for them to track me here. Hinata stepped forward. I'm coming with you, Hinata. Your chakra network is still healing. Which means I'm still more effective against these threats than anyone else here, she countered with uncharacteristic firmness. The Byakugan can track dimensional fluctuations that even your instruments can't detect. Naruto recognized the determination in her expression. In their world, he might have pulled rank as Hokage to keep her safe. Here, they were equals, survivors with unique responsibilities. All right, he conceded. But we observe only unless engagement becomes absolutely necessary. Hill nodded approvingly. SHIELD will establish a perimeter and provide tactical support. Our primary goal is containment and civilian safety. I'll coordinate from here, Pepper added. Friday will maintain real-time communication and data analysis. Shuri was already directing technicians to prepare the Mark I prototype. The armor won't have the full capabilities we've designed, but it should provide basic protection and enhancement. Think of it as a field test. Within 20 minutes, Naruto stood in the equipment bay as the prototype armor was assembled around him. Unlike Tony Stark's later nanotech suits, this version required mechanical application, plates of modified vibranium alloy interlocking over a chakra-conductive undersuit. The design aesthetic blended Stark Industries' sleek functionality with elements reminiscent of Anbu armor from his world. The chest piece contained rudimentary chakra amplification circuits, not the full integration system they were developing, but enough to provide some enhancement. How does it feel? Shuri asked as the final components locked into place. Naruto moved experimentally, testing the armor's responsiveness. Heavier than I expected, but the mobility is good. The chakra conductors are working. I can feel my energy flowing through the pathways. The flight system uses repulsor technology similar to the Iron Man suits, Shuri explained, making final adjustments to the gauntlets. But we've modified the control interface to respond to chakra guidance rather than purely mechanical input. In theory, you should be able to direct movement almost instinctively. In theory, Naruto repeated with a wry smile. The helmet contains basic sensory enhancement and communication systems, she continued. But we haven't integrated the Sharingan interface yet, so you'll need to rely on your natural abilities there. Hinata approached, now dressed in modified tactical gear that accommodated her movement style while providing protection. The diamond's ional breach has expanded by 17%, she reported. Shield transport is ready. Naruto nodded, taking the helmet Shuri offered. Before putting it on, he turned to Pepper, who had been watching the preparations with carefully controlled concern. We'll maintain communication and follow shield protocols, he assured her. This is reconnaissance, not confrontation. That's what Tony always said. She replied with a sad smile. Just come back, both of you. Her gaze included Hinata in the instruction. We will, Naruto promised, securing the helmet in place. The HUD activated immediately, providing environmental data and tactical information. Through the visor, he could see the world with enhanced clarity, though not at the level the Sharingan provided. Iron Sage Mark I, systems check complete. Friday's voice announced in his ear. All primary functions operational. Power levels at 98%. Let's go, Naruto said, turning toward the launch bay doors that had opened to reveal the New York skyline. Time to see what this armor can really do. Central Park had been transformed into a military-style operation zone. Shield perimeter teams had established containment barriers around Sheep Meadow, while aerial units maintained surveillance of the dimensional anomaly hovering above. To civilian observers kept at a distance, it resembled nothing more extraordinary than emergency response to an unspecified threat, unusual in post-blip New York, but not unprecedented. Naruto and Hinata arrived via shield transport, landing at a designated staging area W. Here Maria Hill had established a mobile command center. The armor drew immediate attention from the assembled agents, its design clearly Stark-inspired but distinctly unique. The anomaly has stable IZED at approximately 60 feet in diameter, Hill reported as they approached. No breaches yet, but energy readings suggest imminent activity. Naruto activated the Sharingan behind his helmet visor, studying the dimensional distortion. Unlike the chaotic tear that had brought him to this world, this anomaly appeared structured, deliberately formed rather than randomly generated. It's a gateway, he observed. Someone's creating a controlled passage between dimensions. Hinata, her Byakugan already active, nodded in agreement. The chakra pattern is familiar somehow. Similar to space-time ninjutsu, but vastly more powerful. Quote, can you determine what's on the other side? Hill asked. Not clearly, Hinata replied. But there are multiple chakra signatures gathering. They're preparing to cross over. A sudden pulse of energy from the anomaly drew everyone's attention. The shimmering distortion contracted briefly before expanding again, now taking on a more defined circular shape. Energy spike detected, reported a shield technician. Breach imminent. All units, stand by, Hill ordered through her communication system. Prepare for possible hostile emergence. Non-lethal containment protocols only until we confirm threat level. Naruto felt tension building in his chest, not fear, but anticipation. After months of preparation and uncertainty, they were finally facing whatever had followed him across dimensions. Hinata, stay behind me, he instructed, moving forward to position himself directly beneath the anomaly. If anything hostile emerges, I'll provide support and analysis, she finished. Familiar with their long-established combat dynamic. But I won't stay behind, Naruto-kun. We face this together. Before he could respond, the dimensional gateway pulsed again, more strongly this time. A sound like tearing fabric filled the air as the center of the anomaly opened, revealing a swirling vortex of dark energy. Through the Sharingan, Naruto could perceive what others couldn't. Patterns within the energy, intentional formations that suggested sophisticated control. Someone was manipulating the dimensional barrier with precision. Something's coming through, he warned. The armor's systems automatically shifting to defensive configuration in response to his heightened alertness. From the vortex emerged a figure, humanoid but moving with unnatural fluidity. As it descended toward the ground, features became discernible, the same respirator mask and curse-marked skin as the messenger who had attacked months earlier, but with subtle differences in build and movement. Not the same individual, Hinata confirmed, reading Naruto's thoughts. But similar modifications. The curse mark pattern is more extensive. The figure touched down 30 feet from their position, immediately scanning its surroundings with calculating eyes. When its gaze fell on Naruto, recognition flashed despite the armor concealing his identity. The last Hokage, it spoke. Voice distorted by the respirator but clearly different from the previous messenger, female, with a cold precision to her tone. My predecessor found you. We wondered if you would flee again. I don't run from threats. Naruto replied, the armor's external speakers carrying his voice. Why is your master so interested in the Sharingan? The messenger tilted her head, an eerily mechanical gesture identical to her predecessor's. Completion requires completeness. The master has absorbed all bloodlines save one. She studied the armor with apparent interest. You've adapted to this realm. Impressive, but unnecessary. Your resistance is merely data. Above, the dimensional gateway pulsed again. Two more figures emerged, similar in appearance to the first messenger but with variations in size and curse mark patterns. They descended to flank the first arrival, forming a triangle formation. Shield units, maintain perimeter, Hill ordered through the communication system. Do not engage unless directly threatened. The first messenger raised her hand in a gesture that might have been placating if not for its unnatural rigidity. We have not come to fight, last Hokage. Merely to deliver an invitation. An invitation, Naruto repeated skeptically. The master offers terms. Surrender the Sharingan willingly, and this realm will be spared the fate of your home world. She gestured to her companions. We three are but samples of what will follow should you refuse. The dimensional barriers grow thinner each day. Soon, crossing will require no effort at all. Hinata stepped forward, her Byakugan focused on the messengers. Your chakra signatures are wrong, she observed. Fragmented. You're not fully in this dimension, are you? The messenger's eyes shifted to Hinata, widening slightly in what might have been surprise. The Byakugan survives as well. Unexpected. The master will be pleased to add it to the collection. You didn't answer her question, Naruto pressed. The armor's systems registering increasing energy fluctuations from the messengers. We exist between states, the messenger acknowledged. Neither fully here nor fully there. Pioneer. S of the new existence the master brings. She refocused on Naruto. You have one planetary rotation to consider the offer. After that, the master will begin the consumption process regardless of your decision. The dimensional gateway pulsed again, more violently this time. The messengers looked upward simultaneously, as if receiving unheard instructions. A demonstration of intent, the first messenger stated flatly. All three began forming identical hand signs, complex patterns that Naruto recognized as a forbidden technique from the second Hokage's era. They're creating a dimensional inversion field. He realized aloud, if it stabilizes, it will create a permanent breach. Without waiting for Shield's response, Naruto activated the armor's flight system. Chakra flowed through the pathways, enhancing the repulsor technology and propelling him upward with surprising speed and control. Naruto-kun, Hinata called after him, but he was already engaging the nearest messenger, Chalk. Ra channeling through the armor's gauntlets to form a Rasengan-like energy sphere. The messenger dodged with inhuman speed, continuing the hand sign sequence without interruption. The other two separated, maintaining triangular formation as they completed their own sequences. The demonstration proceeds regardless of interference, the first messenger stated, her tone unchanging despite the attack. Witness the inevitable. Energy began to coalesce between the three messengers, forming a miniature version of the gateway above. Through the Sharingan, Naruto could see how the technique was drawing power from the larger breach, creating a self-sustaining loop that would eventually expand beyond control. Hinata, he called out. The junction points, can you see them? Understanding immediately, Hinata focused her Byakugan on the forming energy pattern. 3 primary nodes, connected to each messenger's chakra network. The pattern cycles clockwise. Naruto processed this information through the Sharingan's analytical capabilities. The armor, though lacking the full integration system they'd planned, still enhanced his natural abilities enough to form a counter-strategy. Shield, target the ground beneath the messengers on my mark. He ordered through the communication system. Non-lethal disruptive charges. Acknowledged. Hill responded. Units in position. Naruto landed between 2 of the messengers, channeling chakra through the armor's enhanced pathways. The sensation was different from using jutsu naturally, more mechanical, less intuitive, but effective. Shadow Clone Jutsu. 4 copies of the armored Naruto appeared, each moving to intercept a different aspect of the technique. The messengers showed no surprise, merely adjusting their positions to maintain the energy pattern. Resistance provides valuable data, the first messenger observed. But changes nothing. We'll see about that, Naruto replied. He and his clones began forming their own hand signs, not the complex sealing techniques of his world, but simplified patterns designed to work with the armor's capabilities. Now, he signaled. Precisely timed explosions erupted beneath each messenger's position, momentarily disrupting their stance and concentration. In that same instant, Naruto and his clones struck the junction points Hinata had identified, channeling disrupting chakra directly into the forming dimensional loop. The energy pattern shuddered, destabilizing as its carefully maintained resonance collapsed. The messengers stumbled back, their synchronized technique broken. Unexpected adaptation, the first messenger noted, her tone still unnervingly calm despite the failure. The master will find this informative. The dimensional gateway above pulsed again, this time with a note of discordance that suggested instability. The messengers looked upward once more, then back to Naruto. The invitation stands, the first messenger stated. 1 planetary rotation. Then consumption begins. She made a single hand sign. Until then, consider this data point. Before anyone could react, all 3 messengers simultaneously released pulses of dimensional energy, not attacking Naruto directly, but targeting the perimeter where shield agents were positioned. The energy didn't manifest as conventional attacks but as spatial distortions that briefly phased sections of reality in and out of normal space-time. Screams erupted as agents caught in the effect experienced momentary dimensional displacement, their bodies partially shifting between planes of existence before snapping back violently. Though not immediately lethal, the effect left dozens incapacitated, their nervous systems overwhelmed by exposure to interdimensional space. Medical teams, move in. Hill ordered, maintaining remarkable composure despite the chaos. All units, fall back to secondary positions. The messengers made no move to press their advantage. Instead, they began rising toward the gateway, their forms becoming increasingly translucent as they transitioned back to their dimensional state. 1 rotation, the first messenger repeated, her voice fading as she ascended. The Sharingan for this world's survival. A generous exchange. With that, all 3 disappeared into the vortex. The gateway itself remained, however, continuing to pulse with ominous regularity above Central Park. Naruto landed beside Hinata, who was already moving to assist the injured shield agents. The armor had performed better than expected during the brief engagement, but limitations were obvious. The chakra pathways weren't efficient enough for sustained technique use, and the integration with the Sharingan was virtually non-existent. They weren't here to fight, Hinata observed as she used medical ninjutsu to stabilize an agent suffering from dimensional shock. This was a calculated demonstration and a data-gathering exercise, Naruto agreed grimly, deactivating the Sharingan to conserve energy. They wanted to see our defensive capabilities, our response protocols. Hill joined them, her expression tense but controlled. The gateway isn't closing. If anything, it's becoming more stable. A foothold, Naruto explained. They've established a permanent connection between dimensions. Even if we could close it, they'd just open another. Then we need to prepare for what comes next, Hill concluded. 1 planetary rotation. That gives us less than 24 hours. Naruto looked up at the dimensional gateway, now a permanent fixture in New York's skyline. The implied read couldn't be clearer. Surrender the Sharingan or face invasion. We need to accelerate the Iron Sage development, he decided. No more tests, no more prototypes. We need the full integration system operational by tomorrow. Is that even possible? Hill asked. Naruto turned to Hinata, who had finished treating the injured agent, and joined their discussion. With both of us working with Shuri and Jane, it has to be. His communicator activated with Pepper's voice. Naruto, I've been monitoring. Friday has already initiated emergency protocols for the Iron Sage project. We're redirecting all available resources. We're returning to the facility now, he responded. And Pepper, we're going to need additional help. Someone who understands dimensional borders from the other side. Here was a brief pause before Pepper replied, I'll make the call. She's been monitoring the situation anyway. As they boarded the transport back to Stark Tower, Naruto took one last look at the gateway hanging over Central Park, a wound in reality that wouldn't heal on its own. Whatever came through tomorrow, he needed to be ready. The Iron Sage wouldn't just be armor anymore. It would be this world's first line of defense against interdimensional consumption, and his last chance to atone for failing to save his own world. Chapter 2 and Chapter 3, Prototype. 20 hours remained on the Time Atom's clock when Wanda Maximoff arrived at Stark Tower. The Scarlet Witch moved through the secure entrance with the wary grace of someone who never quite felt welcome in Stark facilities, despite Pepper's personal invitation. Her auburn hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, casual clothing belying the extraordinary power she commanded. As she stepped into the elevator, memories of Vision ghosted through her mind. They had first connected in a tower much like this one, before Ultron, before the Accords, before everything fell apart. Ms. Maximoff, Friday's voice greeted her. Thank you for coming on such short notice. Ms. Potts is waiting in the Dimensional Research Laboratory on Sublevel 3. I saw the gateway over Central Park, Wanda replied, her Sokovian accent subtle but present. It's familiar somehow. Reminds me of the Mind Stone's energy signature. Interesting observation. Dr. Foster has noted similar quantum resonance patterns. The elevator descended rapidly, bypassing dozens of floors before reaching the subterranean research levels. When the doors opened, Wanda stepped into controlled chaos. Scientists and engineers moved with urgent purpose between workstations. Holographic displays showed complex energy patterns, mechanical schematics, and real-time monitoring of the dimensional gateway hovering above Central Park. At the center of the lab, oratory stood a circular platform where technicians assembled components around a humanoid frame, the emerging Iron Sage armor. Pepper approached immediately, extending her hand. Wanda, thank you for coming. Your message said it was urgent, Wanda replied, shaking Pepper's hand briefly. Her eyes drifted to the armor assembly. That's not one of Tony's designs. No, Pepper confirmed. It's something new. A collaboration between our world's technology and another dimension's energy systems. She gestured toward two figures examining holographic data nearby. I'd like you to meet the reason I called you. As they approached, the man turned. Blonde hair, striking blue eyes with distinctive facial markings that reminded Wanda of whiskers. Beside him stood a woman with pale, pupilless eyes and an air of quiet strength. Both possessed an energy signature unlike anything Wanda had encountered. Similar to the dimensional gateway, yet fundamentally different. Naruto Uzumaki, Hinata Hyuga, Pepper introduced. This is Wanda Maximoff. If anyone understands the intersection of dimensional energies and human consciousness, it's her. Naruto studied her with unexpected intensity. Your energy signature is complex. Reminds me of Biju Chakra, but structured differently. Wanda felt her own power respond to his scrutiny. A recognition between forces that defied conventional physics. And yours feels like a tear in reality trying to heal itself, she observed. You don't belong to this universe, do you? Neither of us do, Hinata confirmed softly. That's why we need your help, Naruto added. The dimensional gateway above Central Park is just the beginning. Whatever consumed our world is coming for this one next, unless we can stop it. Wanda nodded slowly, memories of Wes. View in her own reality-altering grief rising unbidden. Show me what you're working with. Over the next hour, Naruto and Hinata explained their situation while scientists demonstrated the technologies being integrated into the Iron Sage armor. Wanda listened carefully, asking occasional questions that revealed her intuitive understanding of dimensional mechanics. The armor itself isn't the challenge, explained Drive. Jane Foster, manipulating a holographic representation of the chakra flow system. We've solved the mechanical engineering aspects using vibranium alloy composites. The Defi, Culti is integrating the Sharingan's perceptual abilities with the suit's operating system. Because the Sharingan isn't just a visual enhancement, Wanda realized. It's a dimensional interface. Naruto looked surprised. How did you know that? Because I recognize the energy pattern, Wanda replied. The Mind Stone operated on similar principles, perceiving across dimensional boundaries, ACC. Essing information beyond normal space-time. She approached the holographic display, her fingers trailing through the energy patterns. Your eyes don't just see this reality, they see potential realities simultaneously. Hinata exchanged a meaningful glance with Naruto. That's precisely what makes the Sharingan unique, she confirmed. And why the enemy wants it. To control dimensional boundaries, Wanda concluded. Red energy flickered briefly around her fingertips as she manipulated the holographic display, instinctively restructuring the interface patterns. You're approaching this wrong. You're trying to make the technology accommodate the Sharingan, but you should be using the Sharingan as the foundation and building the technology around it. Jane Foster studied Wanda's modifications with growing excitement. She's right. We've been thinking about this backward. Shuri, who had been remotely participating via holographic presence from Wakanda, nodded in agreement. The vibe, Rhonium pathways should mirror the ocular nerve structure, not traditional electronic circuits. Can you help us redesign the interface? Pepper asked Wanda directly. Wanda hesitated, old wounds fro. Her history with Stark technology rising to the surface. But the urgency of the situation, and something in Naruto's eyes that spoke of loss she recognized all too well, made her decision clear. I'll do what I can, she agreed. But understand that my powers don't always operate predictably when interacting with unknown energy sources. Neither do mine in this dimension, Naruto said with a hint of a smile. We'll adapt together. As the team reorganized around this new approach, Pepper stepped away to address an incoming communication. Naruto noticed her expression shift from professional to concerned as she listened. Understood. Increase security protocols and continue monitoring, she instructed before rejoining the group. SHIELD has detected unusual activity near our perimeter. Nothing has breached security yet, but Maria Hill believes someone is conducting reconnaissance. The enemy's agents, Hinata suggested, her expression troubled. Possibly, Pepper acknowledged, quote, or possibly someone else with interest in dimensional technology. Either way, we continue our work. The countdown doesn't stop for security concerns. Naruto nodded grimly. 18 hours left. Let's make them count. On a rooftop 2 blocks from Stark Tower, a slender figure in black tactical gear observed the facility through specialized binoculars. Yelena Belova lowered them after confirming the increased security patrols. Her expression thoughtful rather than concerned. SHIELD's presence was expected. The dimensional gateway above Central Park had obviously elevated threat assessments. What interested her more was the energy readings her specialized equipment was detecting. Quantum fluctuations, dimensional resonance patterns, signatures that didn't match any known enhanced individual or alien technology. Her earpiece activated with a soft click. Report, came a clipped voice, her current handler at what remained of the reorganized SHIELD. Stark Industries has implemented Level 4 security protocols. She reported in her distinctive accent. SHIELD presence confirmed. Energy signatures consistent with the Central Park anomaly, but concentrated within the research levels. She paused, checking her instruments again, also detecting traces of chaos magic. Maximoff is inside. Interesting, the handler mused. Change of plans. We need eyes inside. Yelena smiled slightly. Already arranged. Maintenance contractor credentials are prepared. I'll be inside within the hour. Remember, observation only. Director Fury has an official presence there. Avoid detection. This isn't my first infiltration. Yelena replied dryly. Belova out. She packed her surveillance equipment efficiently, considering her approach. Whatever was happening inside Stark Tower involved dimensions, Wanda Maximoff, and likely the mysterious figures observed during yesterday's Central Park incident. The armored individual who had engaged the dimensional visitors had demonstrated abilities beyond standard Stark technology, combining energy manipulation with physical combat in ways that reminded her of enhanced individuals. For months, fragmented reports of dimensional anomalies had crossed her intelligence desk. Most were dismissed as aftereffects of the blip or residual energy from the various cosmic events Earth had experienced. But the pattern had become too consistent to ignore, especially when concentrated around Stark facilities. Someone new was working with Pepper Potts, someone with abilities outside normal parameters. And Yelena intended to discover exactly who they were and what threat they might pose. After all, the world had enough problems without interdimensional complications. In the heart of Stark Tower's research laboratory, Naruto stood Moshio. NLESS as technicians applied the final components to the redesigned Iron Sage prototype. The armor had evolved dramatically in the 8 hours since Wanda's arrival, its appearance now a harmonious blend of Stark's sleek aesthetic and elements reminiscent of traditional shinobi battle gear. The chest piece housed a circular arc reactor modified to accommodate chakra flow, its glow-shifting between blue and red as it synchronized with Naruto's energy signature. Vibranium alloy plates articulated along pathways that mirrored the human chakra system rather than simply covering vital areas, allowing energy to flow unimpeded throughout the entire suit. Most significantly, the helmet had been completely redesigned around the Sharingan interface. Where earlier prototypes had treated the eyes as simply another sensory input, this version recognized them as the core of the entire system. Neural interface calibration complete, reported one of the technicians. Initializing synchronization sequence, Naruto felt the armor come alive around him, not as an external shell but as an extension of his own body. Chakra flowed through the conductive pathways more naturally than in any previous test, responding to his intent rather than requiring conscious direction. "How does it feel?" Jane Foster asked, monitoring the energy readings on a nearby display. "Like a second skin," Naruto replied, carefully moving his arms to test the articulation. "The resistance is minimal. That's the vibranium microwave," Shuri explained through her holographic presence. "It adapts to movement patterns and chakra flow simultaneously." Wanda observed from nearby, her expression thoughtful as she sensed the energies at work. "The dimensional resonance is stronger now. Your chakra is harmonizing with the suit's systems." Hinata, her Byakugan activated, nodded in agreement. "The pathways are flowing correctly. No blockages or resistance points." Pepper approached the platform, tablet in hand. "Friday reports all systems nominal. Ready for the neural interface test when you are." Naruto took a deep breath, centering himself. This was the crucial step, connecting the Sharingan directly to the armor's operating system. Previous attempts had failed, causing feedback loops that overwhelmed both the technology and Naruto's ocular nerves. "I'm ready," he confirmed. Initiating neural interface in 3, 2, 1. Jane activated the sequence. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the armor's subtle humming changed pitch, synchronizing with Naruto's heartbeat. The Sharingan activated automatically, but instead of the strain Naruto usually felt, the eyes seemed to relax into their enhanced state, as if the armor was supporting their function. Information flooded his consciousness, not overwhelming but organized, structured by the interface Wanda had helped design. Environmental data, structural analysis, energy signatures, all processed through the Sharingan's perceptual framework and presented in an intuitive format. "It's working," Naruto breathed, his enhanced vision now extending beyond normal parameters. "I can see everything." Through the Sharingan enhanced interface, the world appeared in layered dimensions. He could perceive the chakra flowing through his own body, the electrical systems running throughout the building, the subtle dimensional fluctuations in the air itself. Most remarkably, he could see threads of probability, potential movements and actions before they occurred, just as the Sharingan would show during combat, but extended to encompass entire systems. "Neural synchronization at 94%, Jane reported, excitement evident in her voice. "That's well beyond our target threshold. The armor's reading is an extension of his chakra network," Hinata added. Her Byakugan tracking the energy flows. "It's not just accepting his energy, it's amplifying it." Naruto carefully raised one hand, focusing chakra through the gauntlet. The armor responded instantly, channeling and enhancing the energy. A swirling sphere of visible chakra, a Rasengan, formed above his palm, more stable and concentrated than any he had managed since arriving in this dimension. Incredible, Wanda murmured. The suit isn't just technology anymore. It's become a dimensional interface itself. The implications weren't lost on anyone present. The Iron Sage wasn't merely armor, it was a bridge between worlds. A technology that could potentially stabilize or even close dimensional breaches. We should proceed with motor function testing, Jane suggested. See how the neural interface handles complex movement. Naruto dispersed the Rasengan, nodding in agreement. As he prepared to step off the platform, however, a security alert sounded throughout the laboratory. Perimeter breach detected in Research Sector B, Friday announced. Unknown intruder has bypassed secondary security systems. Pepper immediately activated her command protocols. Security teams converge on Research Sector B. Non-lethal containment only. Friday. Identify the intruder. Facial recognition inconclusive, the AI responded. Subject is employing counter-surveillance measures. B. ASED on movement patterns and infiltration methodology. Tentative identification suggests trained operative. Another dimensional entity? Jane asked nervously. Negative, Friday replied. Biometer. IC readings indicate standard human physiology. No enhanced signatures detected. A spy, then, Naruto concluded, the Sharingan interface already mapping potential approaches to intercept the intruder. I'll handle this. The suit hasn't been fully tested for tactical deployment, Jane cautioned. No better time to find out what it can do, Naruto replied with characteristic confidence. Friday. Direct me to the intruder's location. A navigation pathway appeared in his enhanced vision, highlighting the most efficient route through the facility. Without further discussion, Naruto engaged. The suit's mobility systems, not with conscious commands but with instinctive shinobi movement. The armor responded perfectly, its enhanced servos and chakra amplification allowing him to move with preternatural speed. Impressive, murmured Wanda as Naruto vanished from the laboratory in a blur of motion. The neural interface is clearly functioning beyond expectations. Hinata stepped forward. I should provide backup. My Byakugan can track the intruder through the building's structure. Go, Pepper agreed. But maintain communication. If this is related to the dimensional threats, we need to know immediately. As Hinata departed, Pepper turned to the monitoring systems, her expression revealing the concern she normally kept hidden. Friday. Full facility lockdown. Alert Maria Hill, that we have a potential security situation. Yes, Ms. Potts. Director Fury is also requesting update on the Iron Sage project status. Tell him we're conducting preliminary field testing, Pepper replied with the ghost of a smile. Ahead of schedule. Yelena Belova knew she had been detected the moment the facility's lighting pattern shifted subtly, a telltale sign of security protocols activating. She abandoned her methodical approach immediately, switching to direct infiltration of her primary target, the Central Research Database. Moving through the maintenance corridors with practiced efficiency, she avoided the most obvious security response routes. Her intelligence had been correct about the patrol patterns, but something had changed recently, additional measures implement. That weren't in the facility schematics she'd memorized. Adaptive, she murmured appreciatively as she bypassed another security checkpoint using a specialized device that mimicked authorized credentials. Stark had always been thorough with his security systems, and Potts had maintained that tradition. Reaching a junction that should provide access to the database sublevels, Yelena paused to check her surroundings. The corridor ahead appeared clear, but instinct warned her something was wrong. The air felt different, charged somehow. Her instincts proved correct when a figure material, IZED directly in her path, seemingly appearing from thin air, though her trained eye caught the blur of incredible speed. The intruder wore armor unlike any Stark design she'd encountered, sleeker, more organic in its lines. With a distinct chest piece emitting a pulsing glow that shifted between blue and red. The helmet featured no facial opening, instead displaying a stylized representation of eyes that glowed with unsettling intensity. That's far enough, came a male voice from the armor, modulated but clearly human. Stark Industries doesn't appreciate uninvited guests. Yelena assessed her options in an instant. The armored figure's stance revealed combat training, not standard military, but something more fluid, balanced. The armor itself appeared to be a prototype rather than a completed design, with visible connection points still being integrated. "Just lost," she replied with deliberate casualness, adopting the accent and posture of the maintenance worker she was impersonating. "Security sent me to check electrical systems on sublevel 3. Must have taken a wrong turn." "Your heartbeat indicates deception," the armored figure replied. "And your movement patterns match those of a combat operative, not maintenance personnel." "Interesting," Yelena thought. "Advanced biometric sensors, possibly capable of seeing through walls or solid objects." The armor represented a significant advancement over previous Stark designs. "All right," she conceded, dropping the pretense in her fake accent. "You caught me. I'm conducting surveillance on potential dimensional threats." She studied the armor more carefully. "Which I'm guessing includes you, given that fancy new suit." The helmet tilted slightly. "Who do you work for?" "Someone concerned about holes opening in reality," Yelena replied cryptically. "The real question is, who are you? You're not War Machine, and Stark is gone. So who's wearing the new armor?" Before the armored figure could respond, another presa NCE registered on Yelena's awareness, someone moving with extraordinary stealth through an adjacent corridor. Without hesitation, she deployed a smoke grenade, simultaneously launching herself toward an overhead maintenance shaft. The armored figure reacted with impossible speed, intercepting her mid-leap with precision that no standard human could achieve. Yelena found herself immobilized, held acurely but not painfully in a grip that suggested the armor's wearer was carefully controlling its enhanced strength. "Impressive reflexes," she acknowledged, ceasing her resistance to conserve energy. "Enhanced human or something else entirely." "Something else," came a new voice as a woman stepped through the smoke, pale eyes with distinctive veins visible around them, dark hair, and a grace that matched the armored figures. "And we would appreciate knowing why you're infiltrating this facility when dimensional threats are actively targeting it." Yelena recognized the woman from surveillance footage of the Central Park incident, one of the individuals who had engaged the dimensional visitors. Up close, she radiated the same subtle wrongness that Yelena had detected in the energy readings, not hostile, but fundamentally different from standard human presence. "Professional curiosity," Yelena replied honestly. "When dimensional gateways open over major cities and Stark Industries sue Denley implements unprecedented security protocols, certain organizations take notice. SHIELD already has representatives here," the armored figure pointed out, still maintaining his hold. Yelena smiled thinly. "Who said anything about SHIELD?" The helmet retracted unexpectedly, revealing a young man with striking blue eyes, distinctive facial markings, and an expression of thoughtful assessment rather than hostility. What caught Yelena's attention, however, were his eyes, which shifted from blue to a vivid red with a distinctive pattern as she watched. "Those eyes," she murmured, profess ional detachment momentarily giving way to genuine surprise. "They're not human." "Perceptive," he acknowledged. "I'm Naruto Uzumaki. This is Hinata Hyuga. We're dimensional refugees working with RK Industries to prevent an interdimensional invasion." He released his hold, stepping back to give her space. "Your turn." The directness of his approach caught Yelena off guard. Most enhanced individuals or organizations maintained elaborate secrecy, yet this man had immediately disclosed his identity and purpose. Either supremely confident or dangerously naive, she couldn't yet determine which. "Yelena Belova," she replied after calculating the benefits of cooperation versus continued resistance. "Former Black Widow program operative, current independent contractor specializing in enhanced threat assessment." "You're lying about the independent part," Naruto observed, those strange red eyes seeming to see through her carefully constructed cover. "But telling the truth about your capabilities." Yelena reassessed him immediately. The eyes weren't just physically different, they provided some form of enhanced perception, possibly including lie detection. "The details of my current employment are classified," she clarified, "but my interest in dimensional threats is genuine. The gateway above Central Park has numerous organizations concerned, not just SHIELD." Hinata and Naruto exchanged a glance that suggested silent communication, partners accustomed to working together. "We should continue this discussion somewhere more secure," Hinata suggested. "The security teams will arrive shortly." "Agreed." Naruto nodded. His helmet reformed around his head seamlessly. "Ms. Belova, you have two options. Come with us voluntarily for a proper briefing, or we hand you over to She. LD for infiltrating a secure facility during a dimensional crisis. Yelena weighed her choices quickly. Being detained would end her mission prematurely, while cooperation might provide the intelligence NCE she had been sent to gather, and potentially more. Lead the way, she decided. I'm suddenly finding myself very interested in dimensional refugees. Pepper Potts was not pleased when Naruto returned to the research laboratory with Yelena Belova in tow. You brought an infiltrator directly to our most sensitive project. She questioned, her professionally composed exterior showing rare cracks of genuine concern. She's not connected to the dimensional threat, Naruto explained. And she has information we might need. Yelena, for her part, maintained a carefully neutral expression as she surveyed the laboratory, taking in the advanced technology, the unusual energy signatures, and most significantly, Wanda Maximoff's presence with a single comprehensive glance. The Scarlet Witch, she noted. This is becoming quite the gathering of unique talents. Wanda's eyes narrowed slightly. You're with the Reorganized Widows. Not a question but a statement. Among other associations, Yelena acknowledged. All currently interested in why reality is developing tiers over major population centers. Which you could have asked about through official channels, Pepper pointed out. Official channels have become unreliable since the blip, Yelena countered. And when S.H.I.E.L.D. establishes a presence, information tends to become selectively distributed. Naruto, who had PPED off the armor assembly platform to allow technicians to continue adjustments, studied Yelena with unconcealed interest. His Sharingan remained activated, analyzing her movements, expressions, and subtle tells that would be invisible to normal perception. You're not just gathering intelligence, he observed. You're assessing potential recruitment. Yelena's composure slipped momentarily, a nearly imperceptible widening of the eyes that the Sharingan caught easily. Perceptive, she conceded. Enhanced individuals with dimensional expertise are currently in high demand. Particularly those who might help prevent catastrophic incursions. Like the one scheduled to begin in approximately 10 hours, Hinata added pointedly. This information was clearly new to Yelena. Scheduled. Pepper exchanged glances with Naruto, who nodded slightly. With a resigned sigh, she authorized Friday to display the relevant data on the laboratory's main screen, footage from the Central Park encounter, analysis of the messengers, ultimatum, and current monitoring of the dimensional gateway. We're facing an entity that has already consumed at least one dimension, Naruto and Hinata's home world, Pepper explained. It's established a beachhead with that gateway and delivered an ultimatum. Surrender certain abilities within 24 hours, or face invasion. The deadline expires in less than 10 hours, Jane Foster added. Yelena absorbed this information with the rapid assessment of a trained operative. And the armor? She nodded toward the Iron Sage prototype. Your countermeasure. One component of our response. Pepper confirmed cautiously. It's designed to utilize my specific abilities to stabilize dimensional boundaries, Naruto elaborated, earning a sharp look from Pepper at his openness. But it's still in development. The neural interface was only successfully integrated hours ago. Yet you intercepted me with remarkable efficiency, Yelena noted. The armor appears fully functional. Basic functions, yes, Naruto acknowledged. But we haven't tested its primary purpose, interacting with dimensional breaches. Wanda, who had been quietly observing the exchange, finally spoke. Why are you really here, Yelena? Not just for information. Yelena considered her response carefully before answering. Because dimensional incursions aren't isolated to Central Park. My organization has tracked 17 minor breaches across the globe in the past month, all exhibiting similar energy signatures, all closing before official agencies could respond. She met Pepper's gaze directly. Whatever's coming through that gateway, it's already been sending scouts. This revelation created immediate tension in the room. Naruto and Hinata exchanged concerned glances, while Jane hurried to cross-reference her data with this new information. Friday, Pepper commanded, access global monitoring systems. Correlate energy signatures from the Central Park gateway with anomalous readings worldwide for the past 30 days. Accessing, the AI responded. After a moment, a global map appeared on the main display, showing dozens of small points illuminated across all continents. 43 potential matches identified. Most lasted less than 3 minutes, insufficient duration for standard detection protocols to trigger alerts. Infiltration points, Naruto realized grimly. They've been mapping this world's defenses, identifying strategic locations. Precisely, Yelena confirmed, which is why my organization has been conducting independent surveillance. Official channels are too slow, too bureaucratic to respond to threats of this nature. And what exactly is your organization prepared to do about it? Pepper asked, her tone making it clear she already suspected the answer. Whatever is necessary, Yelena replied simply, including supporting unconventional solutions like your armored friend here. Before the discussion could continue, AP priority alert sounded throughout the laboratory. The global map on the main display began showing new illuminated points, dozens appearing simultaneously across all continents. Multiple dimensional breaches detected, Friday announced. Current count, 57 and rising. All exhibiting energy signatures consistent with the Central Park Gateway but at smaller scale. They're not waiting for the deadline, Naruto realized. Already moving back to the armor assembly platform. This is the first wave. Breach locations correspond primarily to population centers and strategic infrastructure, Friday continued. Pattern suggests coordinated deployment rather than random incursion. An advance force, Hinata suggested, her expression grave. Testing defenses before the main invasion. Pepper immediately activated emergency protocols. Friday, alert all Avengers-affiliated individuals. Full deployment authorization. Coordinate with SHIELD and global defense agencies. She turned to the laboratory team. How close are we to full operational status on the Iron Sage? Neural interface is stable at 94%, Jane reported. Flight systems and basic combat functions are operational. Dimensional interaction capabilities are untested but theoretically functional. That will have to be enough, Naruto decided as technicians rushed to complete the final connections on the armor. We're out of time for testing. You can't possibly respond to 57 breaches simultaneously, Yelena pointed out, the tactical assessment automatic. I don't need to, Naruto replied as the armor sealed around him. The helmet reforming with its distinctive eye pattern glowing. I just need to close the source, the Central Park Gateway. Without that anchor point, the smaller breaches should destabilize. Should, Yelena echoed skeptically. Interdimensional physics isn't an exact science, Jane Foster admitted. But our models suggest the smaller breaches are dependent on the primary gateway for stability. Wanda stepped forward. I'm coming with you. My abilities can help stabilize the dimensional fluctuations while you work. And I'll coordinate from here, Hinata added. My. Akugan can monitor the energy flows across multiple locations simultaneously. Pepper approached Naruto, concern evident beneath her professional exterior. The armor hasn't been tested for full dimensional interaction. The risks are necessary, Naruto completed gently. We knew this moment would come, Pepper. This is what we built the Iron Sage for. After a moment's hesitation, she nodded. Friday will maintain constant monitoring. At the first sign of system instability, you disengage. That's not negotiable. Agreed, Naruto promised, the armor's external speakers conveying the sincerity in his voice. As final preparations were made, Yelena observed the interaction with careful attention, particularly the subtle dynamics between Naruto and Pepper Potts. There was history there, or at least the beginnings of one. More importantly, there was trust, the kind that couldn't be fabricated or forced. I'll provide tactical support, she offered unexpectedly. My organization has AMs already deployed near several breach points. We can coordinate response efforts, buy you time to address the primary gateway. Pepper studied her with undisguised suspicion. Why the sudden cooperation? Professional pragmatism, Yelena replied honestly. Dimensional invasion threatens my interests as much as yours. And, she added with a slight smile, I'm curious to see what this Iron Sage can really do. After a moment's consideration, Pepper nodded. Friday, provide Ms. Belova with restricted access to coordination systems. Monitor all communications. Understood, Ms. Potts. With preparations complete, Naruto activated the Iron Sage's flight systems. The chest piece glowed more intensely as chakra flowed through the enhanced pathways, creating an energy field around the armor. Dimensional stabilizers online. Jane confirmed. Sharingan interface at optimal capacity. Naruto turned to Wanda. Ready. The Scarlet Witch nodded, crimson energy already swirling around her hands. I'll follow your energy signature. With a final glance at Hinata and Pepper, Naruto engaged the armor's full propulsion system. Unlike traditional Iron Man suits that relied purely on repulsor technology, the Iron Sage amplified Naruto's own chakra to create a propulsion method that combined technological thrust with energy manipulation. The result was immediate and impressive. The arm shot upward through the specially designed launch bay, leaving a trail of blue-red energy as it accelerated toward Central Park and the dimensional gateway hovering above it. As Wanda followed on her own wave of crimson power, Pepper turned to the monitoring systems. And now we see if all our work pays off, she murmured, more to herself than anyone present. Yelena, already establishing communication with her off-site teams, caught the comment. He inspires remarkable confidence for someone who arrived in this dimension only months ago. That, Pepper replied with the ghost of a smile, is apparently just who Naruto Uzumaki is, in any dimension. Central Park had been fully evacuated and cordoned off by shield forces, creating an eerily empty landscape beneath the pulsing dimensional gateway. The tear in reality had grown since its creation, now spanning nearly 100 feet in diameter and emitting visible energy fluctuations that distorted the air beneath it. Naruto approached at high speed, the Iron Sage's systems providing real-time analysis of the gateway's structure and energy patterns. Through the Sharingan interface, he could perceive what normal instruments couldn't: the intricate dimensional frequencies maintaining the breach, the subtle weaknesses in its construction, and most significantly, the gathering energies on the other side preparing for larger transition. Friday, are you receiving this data? He asked as he positioned himself directly beneath the gateway, hovering on controlled chakra output. Affirmative, the AI responded. Dr. Foster is analyzing the dimensional frequencies now. Breach appears to be expanding at an accelerated rate, estimated 30 minutes until it reaches critical mass for large-scale transition. Sooner than the deadline, Naruto noted grimly. They never intended to wait. Wanda arrived moments later, crimson energy surrounding her as she maintained position nearby. I can feel entities gathering on the other side, she reported. Her abilities sensing what even Naruto's enhanced perception couldn't fully detect. Many of them. Some. Familiar somehow. Familiar how? Naruto asked, the Sharingan foe. See using more intently on the gateway's structure. Like echoes of people I've encountered, Wanda explained, struggling to articulate the sensation. But wrong. Twisted versions. As if someone copied Ignatures without understanding the souls behind them. The description sent a chill through Naruto. That matches what the messenger said. Their master consumes abilities from other dimensions. It must retain echoes of the individuals it absorbs, including people from your world, Wanda realized. Your friends, your enemies, all potentially weaponized against you. Before Naruto could respond, the gateway pulsed more violently than before. The Sharingan detected an imminent breach, energy patterns aligning for transition. Something's coming through, he warned. Multiple signatures. Confirmed. Came Hinata's voice through the communication system. I'm tracking 17 distinct chakra patterns emerging simultaneously. They're modified somehow. Corrupted. The center of the gateway rippled as figures began to emerge, humanoid but wrong in the way the messengers had been, their forms displaying the same curse mark patterns but with greater variation and complexity. Unlike the messengers, these entities wore modified shinobi gear that Naruto recognized with growing horror, variations of Anbu armor from Konoha, Suna headbands, Kiri weapon configurations. They're using our own people, he whispered as recognition dawned. Shinobi from the 5 nations, transformed. The dimensional entities descended in formation, 17 corrupted shinobi forming a perimeter around the gateway's center point. Their movements displayed the trained precision of elite ninja, but with the unnatural fluidity Naruto had observed in the messengers. As they touched down on the park grounds, their leader stepped forward, a figure whose distinctive silver hair and partial face mask sent a shock of recognition through Naruto. Kakashi-sensei, he breathed, the Sharingan confirming what he didn't want to believe. The figure tilted its head in that now familiar mechanical gesture. The designation you reference has been absorbed, it stated in Kakashi's voice, though flattened of all inflection and emotion. This vessel retains functional knowledge and abilities of the entity designated, Kakashi Hatake, but serves the dimensional sovereign. Wanda moved closer to Naruto, Rimson energy coalescing around her hands. It's not really him, she said softly. Whatever this sovereign is, it's using memories and appearances to manipulate you. I know, Naruto replied, though. The pain in his voice suggested the emotional impact regardless. But it has his abilities, his knowledge. The corrupted Kakashi raised a hand, and all 17 entities began forming hand signs simultaneously, different sequences that Naruto recognized as components of a complex sealing technique. The consumption of your dimension proceeds as scheduled, the entity announced. Your respawn, say to our invitation is noted and rejected. The Sharingan will be acquired through direct extraction. Hinata, Naruto called through the communication system, are you seeing this? Yes, she confirmed, her voice tight with emotion. They're forming a 17-point dimensional anchoring seal. It's a forbidden technique from the first Hokage's era, designed to permanently bind two planes of existence together. If they complete that seal, Wanda warned, already moving to disrupt the nearest entity's hand signs, the gateway becomes permanent. Naruto didn't hesitate. The Iron Sage responded to his intention instantly, chakra flooding the enhanced pathways as he engaged the nearest corrupted shinobi. The armor's speed and strength, combined with the Sharingan's predictive capabilities, allowed him to interrupt 3 of the seal casters before they could complete their sequences. Wanda simultaneously unleashed waves of chaos magic against 4 others, her crimson energy disrupting their chakra flow and breaking the precise timing required for the technique. The corrupted Kakashi adjusted strategies immediately. Defensive formation, priority target, Sharingan extraction. His hands blurred through signs that Naruto recognized with dread, the Chidori, Kakashi's signature lightning technique. But as the corrupted version of his former teacher charged the lightning attack, something unexpected happened. The technique interacted strangely with the curse marks covering his body, the energy pattern distorting into something more sinister. A black lightning that seemed to raw power from the dimensional gateway itself. That's not a standard Chidori, Naruto warned Wanda. Don't let it touch you. The corrupted Kakashi launched forward with inhuman speed, the Black Lee. GHTNING aimed directly at Naruto's helmet where the Sharingan interface was centered. The Iron Sage's systems predicted the attack path, allowing Naruto to evade by millimeters, close enough to feel dimensional energy disturbing the armor's own field. The armor's chakra conductors are registering interference, Friday reported. The entity's technique contains dimensional displacement properties. They're not trying to kill me, Naruto realized as he countered with a chakra-enhanced repulsor blast that forced the corrupted Kakashi back. They're trying to extract the Sharingan by shifting just my eyes into their dimension. The other corrupted shinobi had regrouped, adapting their strategy. Rather than attempting the sealing technique again, they split into tactical units, 6 engaging Wanda directly. The remainder coordinating to isolate Naruto from her support. Ms. Maximoff is being overwhelmed, Friday reported as Wanda defended herself against increasingly coordinated attacks. Recommend immediate assistance. Naruto was already moving to help when the corrupted Kakashi intercepted him, joined by 3 others wielding similar dimensional techniques. The extraction proceeds, the entity stated flatly. Resistance provides useful adaptation data but changes nothing. The Sharingan interface suddenly flashed a warning, energy building within the gateway itself, preparing for a larger incursion. Whatever initial force these 17 represented, they were merely the vanguard for something much bigger. We need to close that gateway now, Naruto communicated to Wanda. Before their reinforcements arrive, little busy at the moment, she replied, crimson shields barely holding against the corrupted shinobi's increasingly potent techniques. Naruto made an instant tactical decision. The Iron Sage's primary function wasn't combat but dimensional stabilization, using the Sharingan's unique properties to manipulate the boundaries between worlds. Friday. Divert all power to the Sharingan interface and dimensional stabilizers, he ordered. I'm going to attempt to collapse the gateway directly. Warning. Untested configuration may result in system overload, the AI cautioned. Chakra pathways will experience significant strain. Do it anyway, Naruto insisted. As the armor reconfigured, shifting power away from defensive systems to the specialists. Components designed to interact with dimensional boundaries, Naruto felt the Sharingan responding, connecting more deeply with the suit's systems than ever before. The corrupted shinobi sensed the change, their attacks becoming more desperate as they recognized the threat to their gateway. The corrupted Kakashi abandoned subtlety, launching a direct assault alongside 6 others. "Wanda," Naruto called, "I need 30 seconds of clear access to the gateway." Understanding immediately, the Scarlet Witch gathered her power and released it in a massive omnidirectional wave, temporarily forcing all the corrupted shinobi back with the sheer force of her chaos magic. "Go," she shouted, crimson energy forming a protective dome around herself. "I can't hold them long." Naruto shot upward, positioning the Iron Sage directly beneath the gateway's center. With the armor's power now focused on the Sharingan interface, he could perceive the dimensional structure in unprecedented detail, the precise frequencies maintaining the breach, the connection points anchoring it to both realities, and most crucially, the underlying pattern that could be disrupted. Initiating dimensional countermeasure, he announced, both for the monitoring team and to focus his own intention. The Iron Sage's chest piece began pulsing more rapidly as Naruto channeled chakra through the specialized pathways. Unlike normal jutsu, this technique didn't require hand signs. The armor itself served as the conduit and amplifier, translating Naruto's intention and the Sharingan's perception into direct dimensional manipulation. From the chest piece, tendrils of blue-red energy extended upward, connecting with the gateway's structure. Through the Sharingan, Naruto could see how the energy interacted with the dimensional boundaries, not fighting against them but synchronizing, harmonizing, before introducing subtle discordance. "It's working," Jane Foster's voice came through the communication system. "The G-8-way's fundamental frequency is destabilizing. Maintain current output." Below, the corrupted shinobi recognized the threat. All 17 abandoned their individual tactics and began forming a unified counter technique, a desperate attempt to stabilize their entry point. Wanda, sensing their strategy, launched herself upward to intercept. "Focus on the gateway," she called to Naruto. "I'll handle them." The Iron Sage's systems were approaching critical limits as Naruto pushed more chakra through the dimensional stabilizers. Warning indicators flashed across his interface, but he ignored them, concentrating entirely on the gateway's structural weak points revealed by the Sharingan. Chakra pathways experiencing micro-fractures, Friday warned. Neural interface stability dropping to 78%. "Just a little more," Naruto gritted out, feeling the strain throughout his body as the armor demanded more energy than he had safely provided in testing. The gateway began to contract, its EDGs becoming unstable as the Iron Sage's counter-frequencies disrupted its structure. Through the shrinking portal, Naruto caught glimpses of what waited on the other side, a landscape of twisted, amalgamated realities, where fragments of his world existed alongside pieces of others, all surrounding a central presence too vast to comprehend fully. Sovereign entity detected attempting to stabilize gateway from opposite side. Friday reported, the AI's voice showing rare urgency. Dimensional pressure increasing exponentially. Naruto felt it, a massive force pushing back against his efforts, will so powerful it seemed to press against reality itself. The Sharingan revealed its pattern, not chakra as he understood it, but something more fundamental, a consciousness that had learned to manipulate dimensional fabric directly. "Hinata," he called through the straining communication system. "I need your eyes. Where's the central binding point?" Through the laboratory's monitoring systems, Hinata focused her Byakugan on the gateway's structure, perceiving what even the Sharingan couldn't fully resolve. 30 degrees clockwise from your current focus point, she guided. "There's an thus where 7-dimensional threads converge, that's the master anchor." With her direction, Naruto redirected the Iron Sage's energy output, targeting the precise point she identified. The armor shuddered under the strain, power fluctuations causing momentary system instabilities. "Now," Hinata called, "sever it with a single concentrated burst." Naruto gathered every remaining ounce of chakra he could channel, focusing it through the armor's primary emitter. The chest piece glowed blindingly bright as a single beam of perfectly harmonized energy struck the gateway's central binding point. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a sound like reality itself tearing in reverse echoed across Central Park as the gateway began collapsing inward, its structure unraveling from the center outward. On the ground, the corrupted shinobi reacted with uncharacteristic urgency, abandoning their coordinated attack and rushing toward the rapidly closing portal. Several leapt upward, attempting to ch the gateway before it sealed completely. "They're retreating," Wanda called, pursuing to ensure none remained behind. The corrupted Kakashi paused before joining the exodus, his flat gaze finding Naruto through the chaos. "Temporary setback," he stated with eerie calm. "The sovereign exists across all dimensions. Where one path closes, others open." With that ominous declaration, he vanished into the collapsing gateway along with the last of his companions. The portal contracted to a pinpoint before winking out of existence entirely, leaving behind only dispersing energy and the faint scent of ozone. Across the global monitoring systems, the smaller breaches began closing simultaneously, their connection to the master gateway severed. Naruto hovered in place, the Iron Sage's system struggling to stabilize after the massive energy expenditure. Warning indicators flashed throughout his interface as power levels dropped to critical thresholds. Gateway successfully collapsed, Friday confirmed. All secondary breaches showing rapid degradation. Dimensional stability returning to baseline parameters. "Naruto," Pepper's voice came through clearly now that the dimensional interference had ceased. "Your biometrics are approaching dangerous levels. Return to base immediately for system disconnection." He wanted to comply, but something held his attention, a lingering sensation through the Sharingan interface. A perception of being watched from across dimensional boundaries. Though the physical gateway had closed, something was still observing, patient, calculating, undeterred. "It's not over," he murmured. More to himself than the monitoring team. "The sovereign entity, it's still connected somehow." "All readings show dimensional normalization," Jane Foster replied, concern evident in her voice. Whatever connection existed should be severed. But Naruto knew differently. The Sharingan perceived what instruments couldn't, the faint threads of dimensional energy still lingering, connecting to something beyond normal perception. Before he could investigate further, the armor's systems reached critical threshold. Power fluctuations cascaded through the neural interface, causing feedback that overwhelmed even the Sharingan's enhanced perception. The last thing Naruto registered was Wanda's alarmed cry as the Iron Sage's flight systems failed and he began plummeting towards Central Park below. Consciousness returned gradually, accompanied by the steady beeping of medical monitoring equipment and the sensation of chakra slowly replenishing. Naruto opened his eyes to find himself in Stark Tower's medical bay, surrounded by concerned faces. Hinata sat nearest, her hand resting gently on his arm, subtle pulses of healing chakra flowing from her fingers into his depleted network. Pepper stood at the foot of the bed, relief visible beneath her composed exterior. Jane Foster and several medical technicians monitored various displays, while Wanda observed from near the doorway. Her expression thoughtful. "Welcome back," Pepper said simply. "You've been unconscious for approximately 6 hours." Naruto attempted to sit up, wincing as pain lanced through his body. "The gateway, completely closed," Hinata assured him, gently helping him adjust his position. "All secondary breaches sealed simultaneously. Your plan worked perfectly." "Not perfectly," he corrected, remembering the system failures at the critical moment. "The armor couldn't handle the power requirements." "Actually," Jane interjected, "the armor performed beyond specifications. It was your chakra network that experienced the strain. The human body simply isn't designed to channel that much dimensional energy simultaneously." Naruto glanced around, suddenly noticing an absence. "Where's Yelena?" "Departed shortly after we confirmed the threat was neutralized," Pepper replied with a hint of disapproval. "After downloading considerable data about the Iron Sage's capabilities, I might add. She helped coordinate the global response teams," Wanda noted. "Whatever organization she's with, they were remarkably effective at containing the smaller breaches until we closed the primary gateway." Naruto nodded slowly, processing the implications. "And the armor, undergoing comprehensive repairs and upgrades," Jane explained. "The test under actual combat conditions provided invaluable data for improvements. Shuri is already redesigning the chakra conductors to better handle the energy load." "You should rest," Hinata advised, concern evident in her pale eyes. Your chakra network suffered significant strain. Even with your healing abilities, full recovery will take time. But Naruto couldn't relax, not with the lingering sensation from the Sharingan still troubling him. There's something I need to tell you all, he said, his expression grave. When the gateway closed, I sensed something, a connection that remained even after the physical breach was sealed. What kind of connection? Wanda asked, moving closer with immediate interest. Like thin threads of dimensional energy, too subtle for instruments to detect. The Sharingan could perceive them, connections leading somewhere beyond normal space-time. He met each of their gazes in turn. The corrupted Kakashi said it was a temporary setback. That, the sovereign exists across all dimensions. I think he meant literally. This entity exists simultaneously in multiple realities, using the gateways to extend its primary consciousness rather than physically crossing over. Jane frowned, considering the implications. If that's true, then closing the gateway didn't truly stop it, just forced it to find another approach. And the corrupted shinobi weren't invaders, Hinata realized with growing horror. They were extensions, parts of the sovereign entity given physical form using templates from our world. Puppets, Naruto confirmed grimly. Including people we knew, which means the entity has already consumed their abilities, their knowledge, everything that made them who they were. A heavy silence fell over the room as everyone processed this revelation. Finally, Pepper spoke, her voice steady despite the disturbing implications. Then we adapt our approach. If conventional dimensional barriers can't stop this sovereign entity, we develop unconventional methods. She turned to Jane. Work with Shuri to incorporate what we've learned into the next Iron Sage iteration. Focus on detecting and severing these subtle connections Naruto sensed. The armor proved its concept works, Naruto added. Determination replacing exhaustion in his voice. The Sharingan can interact with dimensional boundaries in ways nothing else can. We just need to refine the interface, make it more efficient. And expand our defensive capabilities, Wanda suggested. My chaos magic affected the corrupted shinobi, disrupted whatever connection they maintained with their master. There are other energies or abilities in this world that could be similarly effective. Pepper nodded in agreement. I'll speak with Fury about expanding our coalition. If this sovereign entity is as adaptable as it appears, we'll need diverse approaches to counter it. As the discussion continued, focusing on technical improvements and strategic adjustments, Naruto felt Hinata's hand tighten slightly on his arm. Looking at her, he recognized the unspoken concern in her expression, not just for their current situation, but for what they had witnessed. Kakashi-sensei, she whispered, her voice too low for the others to hear. If the sovereign consumed him, and Sasuke sacrificed himself, who else might have survived? Naruto completed her thought, or been transformed. The question hung between them, laden with implications neither wished to confront fully. If the sovereign entity could create corrupted versions of people they had known and loved, what other horrors might await in future encounters? Before they could pursue this troubling line of thought, Friday interrupted with an urgent announcement. Priority alert from shield monitoring systems. Dimensional energy signature detected in Wakanda, matching residual patterns from the Central Park Gateway. Pepper immediately activated the room's display screen. Location and status. A map appeared showing a remote region of Wakanda near the vibranium mines. Signature is minimal but stable, Friday reported. Princess Shuri has implemented containment protocols and requests data comparison with our recordings. Send everything we have, Pepper instructed, and prepare a transport. We need representatives on site immediately to determine if this is related to our sovereign entity or a different dimensional phenomenon altogether. Naruto moved to stand, ignoring the pain still radiating through his body. I should go. Absolutely not. Both Pepper and Hinata objected simultaneously. You're in no condition for field operations. Pepper continued firmly. The Iron Sage is undergoing critical repairs, and your chakra network needs time to recover. I'll go, Wanda offered. My abilities can help determine if this new signature matches what we encountered in Central Park. After a moment's consideration, Pepper nodded. Take a Stark Industries quantum analysis team. Full containment protocols. No engagement without direct authorization. As preparations began for this new development, Naruto reluctantly settled back, recognizing the wisdom in allowing his body to recover. The battle, had taken more from him than he wanted to admit, not just physically, but emotionally. Seeing Kakashi's corrupted form, knowing what that implied for everyone else from his world. Rest, Hinata said softly, resuming her healing technique. The next phase will require you at full strength. Looking around at the determined faces of his new allies, Naruto felt something he had nearly forgotten since arriving in this dimension: hope. The Iron Sage had worked, not perfectly, but effectively enough to close a major dimensional breach. With improvements, with allies like these, perhaps they truly could stand against whatever the sovereign entity represented. Next time, he promised himself as much as those present, we'll be ready. None of them noticed the microscopic dimensional particle that had attached itself to the Iron Sage during the battle, now transferred to the medical bay through Naruto's clothing, quietly observing and transmitting across realities to a patient, calculating entity that had already begun formulating its next approach. After all, the sovereign existed across all dimensions, and in at least one of them, it had already won. Chapter 3 End. The End. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.